This production is copyrighted by Solo Productions for the private use of our audience. Any other use of this video, photographs, or audio without our express written consent is prohibited.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Umar Johnson, formerly Johnson, and I'm a certified school psychologist. That means I'm one of the few black men in this country who are actually qualified and certified to evaluate our children for special education needs and services. Unfortunately, less than 1% of all school psychologists in America are black. There's more black surgeons than there are school psychologists. There's more black attorneys than there are school psychologists. There's more black engineers than there are school psychologists. I'm saying that for a reason. When you look at the special education rates for our children in Desoto, or Dallas, or Houston, or San Antonio, or Austin, I want you to look at those numbers within the context of the fact that most of our children are being evaluated for learning disabilities by people who are not culturally competent enough to make informed decisions. Which is why one of the first things I want to caution all parents in here against is making decisions about your child that you do not agree with. What do you mean by that? When parents call me up to help them, Dr. Umar, they put my child in special ed. Dr. Umar, they said he has autism. Dr. Umar, they said my daughter has conduct disorder and she's going to need medication in order to get her education. When they say my child is intellectually disabled, formerly known as mental retardation, and they call me up, my first question for parents is, did you agree with the evaluation team when they concluded your child was reading disabled? No, I didn't agree. So why did you give them permission to evaluate your child? So one of the first things I need y'all to do is stop leaving your common sense at the front door of the schoolhouse when you walk in. Because too often black parents are leaving your common sense at the front door of the schoolhouse. Remember this. When you sit in that meeting, yes, there's principals there. There's dean of students there. There's math coaches and reading specialists and senior career teachers and school psychologists and school counselors and school nurses. But guess what? The only person in that meeting, in that school, that is an expert on your child is you. I think I'm the greatest school psychologist in American history, but guess what? I don't know your child better than you do. So why do y'all walk into these rooms and let these people who will never see your child again after they leave that school make decisions that will affect your child for the rest of their life? See, when parents say they put my child in special ed, I always make them stop. I say, time out. They didn't do nothing. Y'all did it together. See, the black parent is complicit in the school to prison pipeline. The black parent is complicit in the special ed crisis. The black parent is complicit in the ADHD hustle. The black parent is complicit in the psychiatric medication holocaust. The system does not operate without you. So stop saying they put my child on Ritalin, Adderall, Concerta, Medidate. They didn't do it. Y'all did. Your signature must be signed 4 times before I can put your child in a special ed class. Let me say it one more time. You signed your name 4 times before they put your baby in special ed jail. You signed permission for me, the school psychologist, to evaluate your child. If you don't sign that permission, Raheem never makes it to my office to get a label in the first place. So first you sign permission for the eval. Second, you signed the evaluation after I finished it to say you agreed with it. Now let me stop right there. Because I'm trying to understand why so many black parents are signing an agreement to psychological evaluations and special education evaluations and academic evaluations, and you never even read the damn evaluation. Y'all don't even read the paperwork. You don't even read it. You don't even know what's in there. I'm going over evaluation with parents, and the report says your child was retarded 5 years ago, and that's why he's in this class. And you don't even know your son been walking around with an intellectually disabled label for the past 5 years because you didn't bother to read what you signed. Negro complicity. Don't sign nothing unless you read the whole thing, and you still don't sign it unless you agree with everything. What's the third signature? You sign the IEP, incarceration preparation document. IEP, you signed it. Did you read the IEP? No, you didn't read the IEP. You didn't read the psych report. You didn't read the IEP. And then the 4th time you sign your name, is you have to sign the special education service agreement. Without that service agreement, we do not have authorization to take your child from the regular class and put them in a special class. We can't pull them out. We can't do nothing without that signature. So you signed 4 times. My problem ain't the school. American public schools have been consistent in the miseducation of black children. And why must the schools fail in the first place? Why must they fail in DeSoto? Why must they fail in Austin? And not only Texas, but back home in Philadelphia, up in Brooklyn, over in LA. Everywhere I go, there's not a school district in America, not one of them, where you can show me that has positive outcomes for most of the black children. Not one of them. Not one in 56. You know why? Why can't you point to one school district in 50 states, that's thousands of districts, and not one has positive outcomes for most of their black children? Now, they can point to a magnet program. They can point to a good high school over here. They can point to an overachieving elementary school, but no district in this country has positive gains for most of the children. You know why? Because in a society based on racist privilege, in a society based on racial privilege, you must disadvantage the opportunities of the black children in order to safeguard and protect the white privilege of the white students. I'm going to say it again. The schools must fail in Dallas. They must fail the black children in DeSoto. Because if they don't fail them, those black children can now challenge white children for control over the political and economic reality. This is exactly why America loves standardized testing. Why does America test children more than any other industrialized nation? All you do is take tests. Test. Texas achievement test, IQ test, reading test. I'm a school psychologist. My whole life is testing. All I do is give out tests for a living. I could probably give the IQ test from memory. I've given it so many times. You know why America loves testing so much? Especially in the post-Jim Crow civil rights era? Because testing has replaced the Jim Crow sign as the most effective way to exclude blacks from professions and careers you don't want them in. I'm going to say it again. If I only want a certain number of black firefighters, a certain number of black police, a certain number of black doctors, a certain number of black lawyers, it's no longer politically correct to say no Negroes at the University of Houston. It's no longer politically correct to say no Negroes at Texas State University. You can't say that no more. It's not politically correct. So how do we keep black folks out? How do we keep the numbers just as small in 2022 as we did in 1922? How do we do that if we can't say no blacks? Because 80 years ago, they'd just say no blacks, no Irish, no dogs. I remember those signs. You can't say that no more. So now we're going to use testing in place of the Jim Crow sign. So if we only want a certain number of black children at a certain university in Texas, we'll say, hey, if your ACT score ain't at least a 25, don't holler. If your SATs ain't at least a 1600, don't holler. You want your child in a mentally gifted and talented program? IQ better be at least 130 or don't bother. And because they're using numbers instead of words, you think the test is fair. Because they're using numbers instead of words, you think the test is equal. Because they're using numbers, scores, instead of words, you think your child has an equal shot. Nothing could be further from the truth. Do you know that the fathers of most IQ tests we use today were blatant white supremacists? Oh yes. Go and do your research on Simon Binet and what he thought about black folks. All the fathers of white psychology were stone cold racist, Sigmund Freud on down. And we still using their tests today to decide which black children are learning disabled and which ones are not. Psychology is racist, and American education is racist. And if you don't understand that, you'll never understand the 15-point black-white test gap. Now, when you turn on the news, and when you read the psychology journals, they'll make you think the reason white children are constantly outperforming black children is because white children are intellectually superior and black children are intellectually inferior. And psychologists still say that today, by the way. I can show you articles right now where psychologists will tell you to your face black children are intellectually inferior. So how does this 15-point black-white test gap maintain itself after all these decades? First of all, who's making the test? White folks. And they're standardizing the test off who? White children. Middle-class white children. And they're making the test to do what? Justify the lack of equality and opportunity in this country. Let me say that one more time so you understand me. Standardized testing's job is to justify the lack of inequity. The purpose of the standardized test in American society is to explain why black people don't get the same opportunities as white ones do. Wait a minute, Dr. Umar, that sounds, I hear you, but you might be exaggerating a little bit. Am I? How did the intelligence test get to America? A white man from New Jersey named Henry H. Goddard, who was a eugenicist. Well, let me back up. What is eugenics? Eugenics is a racist scientific movement created by a white racist psychologist out of London, England. Francis Galton, who was the cousin of Charles Darwin, another racist. And Francis Galton came up with a word called eugenics, which means good stuff. And he basically said, white people are more superior than everybody, especially Negroes. Even though they're superior to Negroes, they're genetically inferior to Negroes, which doesn't make any sense. So he said we got to systematically reproduce white people. We got to reproduce the best of white people, and we have to systematically exterminate black folks. This is where Adolf Hitler in America and everybody else got this whole racial science idea. It was born from who? White psychology. You should read this book. You can buy it. It's called Hereditary Genius. Go and read Hereditary Genius. One of the most racist books ever written, talking about how white folks are so much better than everybody else, and we need to get rid of the others and systemically reproduce the best of the white race. And so Francis Galton, the father of the study of individual differences in psychology, he gave birth to this notion of intellectual superiority. But the problem is all white folks will be tested on white tests. They don't test the white folks on black tests, then we test them on a test that automatically gives them an unfair advantage. So anyway, Henry H. Goddard from the New Jersey school goes all the way to Paris, France, and meets with Simon Binet. That's where you get the Binet Stanford IQ test today. And he gets this test in France from Simon Binet, brings it back to New Jersey. Now mind you, Henry H. Goddard is a racist. He does not like black people. He thinks we're inferior and we should be systematically eliminated. And he uses the IQ test in New Jersey schools, and then he takes it all across the country because he has finally found a weapon that looks like it's scientific to justify why black children are receiving inferior education and are openly identified as retarded, learning disabled, emotionally disturbed, and every other definition. The test is a weapon. And how do they make sure the white kids outperform the black kids? Whenever you come up with a new test, it has to go through a process, and I hope y'all listening, it has to go through a process called standardization. You know what standardization is? It's the process of making the test normal, so that it's based off the population who it will be administered to. I participated in the standardization of some of the most popular tests we use in this country as school psychologists. And you know what they do? They call you up and they say, Dr. Umar, we're working on this new IQ test. You're in Philadelphia, the 6th largest city in the country. We need you to test 5 black boys between 5 and 7 who live in a single household run by their mother in poverty. We need 10 kids whose mothers and fathers are married, living in the suburb, but only one of them have a doctorate degree. We need about 8 preschool black kids with single mom, but the mom has a doctorate, no husband in the house. They're literally that specific. They test every possible demographic of every racial group in America. And then, once we give the children the tests, we send the responses back to the central office, and they study the answers of all the white kids. They study the answers of all the black children, the Latino children, the Arab, the East Indian, the Chinese, the Native American. All of these children are included in the sample. Now that y'all all know this, which means what? Every question your child gets on a test was already answered by a child of the exact same demographic set as your own child. So when your child takes the Texas State Assessment, and your child is 4 years old, well, let's say 7 years old, mother and father married, daddy works with his hands, mom has a doctorate, 10 of the black girls that already took that test that your child matches up to. So there's no such thing as seeing the test for the first time. Your child might have saw the test for the first time, but somebody of your child's exact same demographic set has already seen the test. What are you trying to say, Dr. Umar? I'm trying to say that the tests are engineered before your child gets them to produce a certain result that the test designers have already decided upon. Are y'all listening to me? I hope you're listening well. This is how they keep the 15-point black-white test gap. But they never tell black parents. They never tell you that we've already tested these questions, so we knew how your daughter would answer because we've already given the question to daughters who meet your daughter's same demographic set, your same son's demographic set. They know already. So the test produces the outcome that we want. And what do they do when they find questions where the black children score higher than the white kids? Do you think those questions ever make it into the final set? Hell no. You will never see a test in Texas, ever, where the black kids outperform the white kids. You'll never find it. Not because they can't, but because when we do standardization, they look at the questions that the different race groups got right and got wrong. And you know which ones go into the final test? The ones that show the European to be superior. If the black kids ever outperform the white children in Texas, that test will be burned by bonfire the next morning. You know why? Because it would upset the status quo, the social structure. If the black kids are outperforming the white kids on the Texas state assessment, how do you justify so few black children working on their medical degree? If the black kids are outperforming the white kids, how do you justify so few black children working on their engineering degree or their law degree? How do you justify so few black people being in the so-called middle class if the black kids outperform the white kids? So what I need y'all to understand, the testing is rigged. It is standardized and set up, and I would debate any psychologist who says otherwise to produce a result that has white on the top and black on the bottom. That's your 15-point test gap. But I want to go a little further before I leave this testing thing. One more point. Let's talk about the IQ test. So-called measure of general intelligence. Now, most IQ tests have 4 skills. Working memory intelligence. How well your child can manipulate information actively in their mind to solve a problem. Working memory. Like what you use when you're reading comprehending, or what you use when you're doing math problems. You have to hold information, manipulate information, keep it together to come with the correct answer. Guess what? Black children score just as well as whites and Asians on the working memory intelligence scale. Let's go to the next one. How about processing speed? How quickly and efficiently your child can solve a mental task. Black children score just as well as whites and Asians. Then we go to the third one, nonverbal reasoning. Your ability to solve tasks and problems that do not require the medium of culture or language, like the Rubik's Cube. If I gave you a Rubik's Cube, it does not require knowledge of culture or language to solve the Rubik's Cube. Black children score just as high as whites and Asians. So far, we are equal. So how do we get the 15-point test gap in intelligence, just like we get the 15-point test gap in achievement? The 4th skill. And you know what that is called? Verbal comprehension intelligence. What is verbal comprehension intelligence? You know what it is? It's the words white people use that black children never heard, don't need to know, and it has nothing to do with how intelligent they are. And that's coming from somebody who gives the test. I give the test. So I know what I'm talking about. And as I'm testing our children, asking them about verbal ideas and concepts and objects and definitions, I'm sitting there pulling my hair out saying, what does this have to do with how intelligent he is? Now let me give you the hypocrisy. White psychology will tell you that of all the scales on the intelligence test, the verbal comprehension index or intelligence is most influenced by what? Culture, socio-economic status, and previous schooling. Let me say that again. The verbal comprehension scale of the intelligence test is influenced by what? Culture, socio-economic status, and previous schooling. Well, if this is influenced by culture, how is it measuring native intelligence? And if this is influenced by the parents' socio-economic status, how is it measuring native intelligence? And if this is influenced by previous schooling, qualitative education, how is it measuring native intelligence? Guess what, ladies and gentlemen? It's not measuring native intelligence. It's measuring cultural adaptability. How well do you understand white people's lives? That's why we got 15-point black white test gap in IQ, because they stick words in there that black children don't know, never heard of, are not exposed to at school, and it has nothing to do with how intelligent they are. This is why I want all of you to know. And before you leave here today, you'll have my personal cell number, so I never want to hear about another parent in Desoto who won't do something in the school and you don't know what to do. But you have Dr. Umar's personal cell. And for those of you who are not members of the American African community, I will help you too. Mexican, white, Arab, Chinese, I love children. And I will help anybody help their children. But understand, I'm unapologetically African and I'm dedicated to the best interests of black children first. With that, let me tell you what white psychologists I work with do. Let me tell you what they do in Texas. They evaluate a black boy and a black girl, and the black boy and black girl will get an 85 on their working memory. Low average, could be higher, but clearly not deficient.
Yeah, just go watch this.
On their working memory. And then they give them the nonverbal reasoning, they get a 92. Average, could be higher, but not deficient. So the working memory is average, the nonverbal reasoning is average, the processing speed is average. All the scores are within the 80s and the 90s. And then they give them that verbal comprehension index. And guess what happens to the scores? They drop down to the 50s, in the 60s. Are y'all following me? So let me tell you what happens. If your child's 3 IQ indexes are in the 80s and 90s, which means they're average to low average, and then your child gets a 50 or 60 in the verbal comprehension, as a psychologist, I'm not able to use the full scale IQ score. Why? Because he has a score that's so far away from the other 3. Are y'all following me? The other 3 are in the 80s and 90s, but his definitions and words and verbal concepts 50s and 60s. Since one is significantly different than the other, in my report, I'm supposed to say the full scale IQ score is unreliable because this young man or this young lady has a verbal comprehension index score that's 30 points below the range of the others. So we cannot discuss the overall IQ. But based on the fact that the other 3 scores are within the low average to average range, I am of the professional opinion that this child's true level of intelligence is somewhere between low average and average. That's not what they do in Desoto or Austin. You know what they do? They use a full scale anyway. And your child comes home with a psychological evaluation talking about he's intellectually disabled, mild mental retardation. And because you don't know how to interpret the scores, because you don't read Dr. Umar's information and follow my work, you ended up running around thinking your child was retarded when he was just as intelligent as everybody else. The difference was you didn't know that the psychologist had no business interpreting the overall score when only 1 of 4 was significantly low. So I'm saying that to say that if you ever get a report from your child claiming that they're intellectually disabled, I will review it for free. I review all intellectual disability evaluations for free. And why do I review them for free? Black children are black boys in particular, are 4 times as likely as white boys to be called retarded when they're not. Did y'all hear that? It is an epidemic of black children in this country being called intellectually disabled when they're not. It used to be mental retardation. President Obama changed mental retardation to intellectual disability back in 2009. This is the same thing. And y'all will take these labels that people give you, put them on your child. And you will treat your child based on what the label said. You know how long I work with your child before I give them a label or don't give them a label? A psychological evaluation is only 2 or 3 days. I test your child for 2 or 3 days. I give them an IQ test, a reading test, a math test, a listening test, a comprehension test, an emotional measure, a behavioral measure, a visual motor measure, an adaptive behavior measure. I interview the parents, I interview the teacher, I review the record, and I observe them in the classroom. That's it. And guess what? All those tests I just named, you know what they give me for your child? They give me scores. They don't give me diagnoses. And that's another lie that they run on you parents. There is no test that diagnoses anybody. Let me say that. Because y'all will call me up and say, Dr. Umar, the test said my son is ADHD. The test said my daughter has a reading disability. No test diagnosis. The tests only give us scores. Who gives the labels out? The psychologists. And guess what, Desoto? I know I'm the first person to tell you this, but you need to know it. The learning disability. Now, by the way, in special education, we have 13 disabilities. Special ed is 13 federal disabilities because special ed is a federal law, right? So it's everywhere in America. So if you have a child in special ed in Texas and you pick up and move to Connecticut, his services must continue because special ed was created in 1975 by an act of Congress, Public Law 94-142, Education for All Handicapped Children Act in 1975. Now, before I continue, I need you to understand that special education was also unofficially the Resegregation of Black Children Act. In 1954, the Supreme Court ruled out race in schools, right? Brown versus Board. Thurgood Marshall, Charles Hamilton Houston, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund fought and got the schools desegregated, and white folks lost their damn minds. And what was the first thing white folks did when the Supreme Court overturned separate? What else happened in 1954? Same year, the mentally gifted movement was born in America. Why was the mentally gifted movement born the same year that the Supreme Court outlawed school segregation? Because white folks didn't want white kids next to black kids. So guess what they used? That white racist IQ test I just talked about? And the mentally gifted movement was born. And so white folks said, my child is too smart to be in a room with their children. It's not because they're black. It's just that my child is too intelligent. So they used mental giftedness. The first mental gifted movement in this country was to justify the resegregation of black children and white children based on presumed intellectual superiority. If you don't believe me, do your research. So if you're wondering why there's so few black kids in the mentally gifted program in Texas today, if you're wondering why we have black children overrepresented in every disability category, but underrepresented when it comes to MG, it's because MG was born to pull the white kids out of the classroom from the black children, and they used intelligence. Problem was, not all white kids are gifted. So it only worked for a few, and they were still stuck. How do we separate Robbie from Raheem? So guess what? 10 years later, in 1964, a psychologist comes up with another weapon of mass destruction called the learning disability. Wow. Up until the 1964 learning disability, most kids in special ed had obvious disabilities. They were blind, They were deaf. They had brain injuries. They were orthopedically impaired. They were moderately to severe, intellectually disabled. But after 1964, that would change. And in 1975, we get special ed, 20 years after Brown. Special ed was created for two reasons. To force white schools to accept black children under the presumption that you can relabel them and thereby resegregate them. Let me say it one more time. Your child goes to a school in the suburbs of Texas. Black kid in an all-white school, they don't want him there. What's the best way to get him out the classroom with the white kids? Get him tested, label him, and throw him in special ed with the other black boys. I'm giving you the facts. Which is why y'all better be careful, because some of y'all love to take your black kid from the ghetto school and stick him in a white suburban school, failing to recognize he might be more likely to end up in special ed in the suburbs than in the hood. See, in the ghetto, we put black kids in special ed to get paid. In the suburbs, we put black kids in special ed to get them away from the white ones. I was part of a class action lawsuit, Lower Merion High School, Kobe Bryant's alma mater, right across the street from Philadelphia. We won the case. Kobe Bryant's high school, which is one of the wealthiest high schools in America, was putting black kids in special ed whose IQ and achievement scores were above average. You know why? Because they don't want black kids out there in the first place. When do we get the biggest expansion in private schools in America? The biggest expansion in private schools in America comes when? 54 to 74. Meaning what? Between school desegregation and special education. White folks ran out the public school with their children and they started opening up private schools all over America. So then a black mother shows up in 2022 and you got 3 black kids, richly melanated, beautifully black, big nose, big lips, very white voice, black children, showing up to this white private school, and they say, well, you know, it's $20,000 a year per child. They don't know you make $250,000 or more. So you say, no problem. I want to sign up Rashida, Raheem, and Shaka. And the secretary like, did you hear what I said? It's $20,000 per child. And then you catch on to what she's trying to say, because she's trying to insinuate you can't afford this, you're a single mother. You got 3, that's 60 grand. And you say, can I write the whole check now? Oh, they really pissed off. And the minute you leave, Shaka and Raheem, they're gonna catch hell. Because no white folks did not open up no private school for your black children to go into. And then what the private schools do, they're so disingenuous. They will tell you Raheem is showing evidence of a reading problem. He never had one in no other school. You notice that? Your children had no problem with reading and math till they got to the white school. We think he may have a disability. And then you make the mistake of signing permission for white folks to tell you if your child is reading disabled. Always get a black psychologist to evaluate your child. I'm not saying all white psychologists have out for black children, but I am saying they're all culturally incompetent. And determining whether or not a child has a disability is too important to be left up to a culturally competent psychologist. That's right. Y'all want me to test my child? You better find somebody black, and they better be black and conscious. Don't let them give you no clues. Worse than half of the black folks with schools. Everywhere I go is a cool in the audience. That's what I know it's two of you out here right now. I can't stand him. I hate Eva today. I hate him. Coons in my email, coons in my text messages. Make sure your child is evaluated by somebody who looks like him and cares about him. Because I know black psychologists who will label your child just as quick. Because you know psychology is big business. Lord have mercy. If I just renounce everything I teach and stand for, I could be a millionaire in a year labeling black kids with ADHD. Everywhere you go, ADHD. And some of you parents are so ridiculous. You're letting these people evaluate 3, 4, and 5-year-olds for ADHD. Are you crazy? Are you crazy? Every boy is ADHD at 3. It's called normal masculine behavior. But you know what the problem is? Schools are ran by women. And in most cases, white women. So the black boy is twice discriminated against. He has to deal with being a male in a female-oriented institution, and then he has to deal with being black in a white-controlled institution. So I'm telling all you black parents right now, the first time a teacher comes to you talking about, we think Raheem needs some medication because he's too hyper, you let the teacher know, my son will not be getting evaluated. He does not have ADHD. And last time I checked, your license is in education, not psychiatry. You have to tell them that. Because you got teachers giving parents psychiatric advice who do not have the credentials to do so. And did you know they can lose their license for that? Oh yes. Teachers can be stripped of their credentials for giving parents psychiatric advice where they do not have the credentials to do so. But it never happens in the black community because you never complain. Hell, you never do nothing. And the sad thing is when a black parent shows up to fight for their child, they have to take on the whole school system for all the other black parents who did nothing. They are so used to black parents doing what they tell them to do, it is out of this world. Y'all don't read IEP, just sign. And what makes me so upset as a psychologist is I always need to talk to the parent before I classify or don't classify. And just so y'all know, inside the school, we call it classify. In the clinic, we call it diagnose. Okay? So I'm clinical and school. I do both, right? So in the clinic, it's a reading disorder. In the school, it's a reading disability. In the clinic, it's a math disorder. In the school, it's a math disability. Because school psychologists do not have legal privilege to diagnose mental illness inside of the school. We can only diagnose the 13 special ed disabilities. In the clinic, we can diagnose all 400 mental disorders: schizophrenia, depression, bipolar, borderline, anxiety, ADHD, conduct disorder. Those are mental disorders. They are clinical. In the school, we only deal with 13 special ed disabilities, which are what? Speech and language impairment, intellectual disability, emotional disturbance, traumatic brain injury, orthopedic impairment, hearing impairment, autism, other health impairment, multiple disabilities, developmental delay, BISH 13. That's it. But which one is the most popular in the ghetto? The learning disability. It is 8 types. You have the reading comprehension, reading fluency, basic reading skill, math calculations, math reasoning, listening comprehension, oral expression, written expression. So for the one specific learning disability, SLD, for the one specific learning disability, there are 8 types. Everybody clear? So if you ever get an evaluation saying your child has a learning disability, you better make sure it tells you which one. Because I'm reading reports that say your child is learning disabled, and they don't tell you in what. Is he learning disabled in math? Is he learning disabled in comprehension? How are you going to tell a parent their child is learning disabled and you don't even tell them in what skill area? Psychological reports are poorly written in the ghetto. Black community, which are not synonymous. I want to say black community because some of y'all say, I live in a black suburb. It's still black. So they're still doing the same thing in your kids too. Read the report. And if you read a report and you find another child's name in your child's report too much, I can almost guarantee you that that's not your child's report. You know what the psychologist did with his lazy self? He found another child in the 4th grade like yours with the same disability referral, reading or math or ADHD, whatever the problem is, and he found another 4th grader with the same problem, same age, same background. He pulled up their report, didn't even bother testing your child, and just changed the name. Oh yes, it happens all over America. Oh yes, it does. You better believe it. And some of y'all reading reports and you say, this sounds nothing like my child, because it ain't. I've seen psychologists do it. I've seen special ed lawyers tell the psychologist to fabricate the paperwork to save the school district lawsuits. Oh yes, special ed is one of the greatest conspiracies in this country. And if y'all know like I know, if my daughter had a reading problem or a math problem, you know what I would give them? I would give them a tutor. That's all they need. You don't need special ed. All they need is a tutor. 3 times a week, 1 hour. 1 hour, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, can wipe out any reading problem, any math problem, any comprehension problem they have in 1 marking period. So why is your child struggling in special ed where they're not going to get any individual attention anyway? They call it an IEP, but there's nothing individual about it because there's too many kids being put in special ed for the service to be individual. Get them a tutor. But the problem with some of us, anything the white power structure gives us for free, we don't want to pay for ourselves. Oh yes. $30 billion a year black women spending on hair and beauty because white folks made you think you're ugly. And I don't fault black women for that, I fault black men. Because the women are trying to look like what they have observed us to be attracted to. And since most black men only want a light, bright, near white, or mixed race woman, our women are trying to reinvent themselves to look that way. Uh-oh. Got real quiet now, didn't it? Black men are the reason black women are spending $30 billion a year. If we would just affirm her natural look and her natural hair, she would too. And that was getting out of hand. That's why I don't date women who ain't natural. I can't. Because I'm a role model to our children. And if I'm telling black boys to marry natural black women, and if I'm telling black girls to be natural yourself, I can't walk in there with somebody with a big blonde wig on their damn head. The hell I got to do with being pro-black? Looking like a scarecrow or old-fashioned Barbie dolls. And stop getting these body surgeries, black women. Massacring yourself all over. Let me tell you a little secret. Your body has to be proportioned to the size of your head. Let me tell you where black women, see, I was breastfed, so I got a big African head. Some of you sisters got a big African head. You can't have a 10-pound body on a 1,000-pound jug head. It don't look right. So you can tell who got the surgery because the body all small and the head all big. It don't look right. Make sure your body matches your damn head. Oh, it happens. I wish we could pass a law to outlaw surgery. Y'all getting out of hand with the surgeries. And our daughters growing up, they don't know what they want to look like. Because everybody's switching themselves all up. Black women, the most attractive thing about you to a man, and this is for anyone, the most attractive thing to a man is the confidence, the self-confidence of a woman. Not the body. Because if you're getting tummy tucks and cheeks butted up at 20, when you 60, all that stuff will be sagging. Dang! Y'all know what I'm talking about. Ain't no insurance policy on that surgery. When you get 70 and 80, you got to carry all that stuff around. Hurting, painful, lumps, look like you're having babies in your back and your buttocks. Stop! But let me get back to the children. deal with that when I come back, when I release my For Sisters Only Relationships and Dating book. I'm working on a For Sisters Only Relationships and Dating book for women. Because y'all don't understand how this dating thing goes. Because your fathers never gave you the game. Because he couldn't give you the game. Because he used it to get your mama. But I'll give you 3 quick rules and I'm going to get back to special ed. And this goes for all women in here. I don't care what color culture you is, it's the same rules. Rule number 1, never look desperate. The biggest mistake women make in the dating game is appearing desperate. When a man sees you as desperate, your value drops automatically. Because he knows he can do things with you or to you simply because you feel like you need a man in order to be a woman. Never appear desperate. Number 2, stop telling men how many men you dated or been with. That's none of our business. We don't need to know, and we will find out anyway at the right moment. It is nothing worse than a woman saying she only been with her baby daddy, and then you finally get a cookie, and she running around with the loosey-goosey of Desoto Texas. So ladies, don't volunteer no information about your past, because if you throw a loosey-goosey at that brother, you'll never see him again. Rule number 3, never move faster than he does. You must always be more patient than your prospective mate. I don't care how much in heat you are. I don't care how focused you are on making a commitment. Do not pull him. Always be more patient than him. And the number 1 reason why you don't want to pull the man along is men by nature are the predators. We are the pursuers. If you pursue me more than I pursue you, you're taking the fun out of my hunt. And I will find another woman who will let me hunt. Brother clap, he did traumatized. Yes, indeed. So I'm working on my book for the ladies, because then you get the women who say, I can't find a good man, but I say, where you be at? You be at clubs, you don't find good men there. You be at the bar for after 5, it's a thirsty hangout. All the women there, no! Stay away from the after work bar! But I'm working on the book. I'm serving up nice and slow. And when it's ready, I'll come back. But I want to say something to the brothers in here. If you have an appetite for more than one woman, that's your right. But she has a right to decide if she wants to participate in it. And one of the biggest problems we got in the community is brothers who are misleading women into thinking she's the only one. You're all I see. You're the only thing on my mind. Well, you know you got 2 or 3 women. Now, if you're not monogamous, that's your right. But she has a right to not be included in a plural marriage against her will. Please give her the right to choose. Do not manipulate sisters into plural relationships. Let me move on. This is not a relationship. Stop it! I got a blind baby now! Cut it out. Getting back to the children. I'm going to give the parents some rules you can use to protect your children in the schools. Now, when we're done here tonight, for those of you who are interested, I have copies of my new book outside called Black Parent Advocate. It's almost 500 pages. I suggest you get it because it is a collection of most of the letters you will need to send to the school for your child. They want to test it for a reading problem. You don't think you got a reading problem? I got the letter. Just reproduce it and send it in. Your child been in special ed, they actually need special ed, but special ed ain't helping your child. Guess what? I got the letter you need to send it. They complain about your child's behavior and you don't know what to do. I'm going to tell you what you want to do. You're going to hire a psychologist or a behavior specialist to go into the classroom and observe your child to see if they see what the teacher claims she's saying. One of the biggest mistakes y'all make is y'all assume the teachers are telling you the truth about misbehavior. You're talking to a former principal, and I will be one again soon when we finish FDMG. Teachers exaggerate, teachers lie. I've been in classes where the teacher said this kid was the problem and 3 other kids was the problem. He may have been off task, but he don't compare to those. So why you didn't talk about, oh, I get it. Because this child is from an impoverished, low-income home. You figure you can bully that parent. And because the real bad problems in your classroom, their parents are middle and upper class people with respectable reputations in the city, you let their kids continue to misbehave. You always get somebody in the class to validate what the teacher is saying. You cannot assume the teacher is telling the truth. They are human beings like everybody else. And what does the research tell us? The darker the child, the more complaints will be made about them. Oh, that's not me. That's Harvard and Yale. Go read what they say. Even today, teachers pay more attention to the children in the class who look the most like they own at home. Oh yes. You don't believe me? Go to a local public school, and I want you to look at the complexion of the kids in the gifted class, and go look at the complexion of the kids in the LB or the ED class. And see if you don't notice some color variations. The more disabled, the darker the kids. They get targeted by the unconscious biases of teachers. People say, well, you think white people can't teach black kids? I didn't say they couldn't teach them how to read, write, count, history, science. But the one thing black children need to be able to do that no white person can teach them how to do is navigate racism successfully. Not a white person in America can teach a black kid how to survive. So what are the 10 rules for black parents? Rule number 1, if your child is 7 years old or younger, 7 or younger, boy or girl, they should never be getting evaluated for anything unless it is absolutely obvious they have it. What do you mean by that? If your child is 7 or younger, I don't want to see no autism evaluations. I don't want to see no learning disability evaluations. I don't want to see no ADHD evaluations. I don't want to see no emotionally or behaviorally disturbed evaluations. Why not, Dr. Umar? Because you cannot prove that in a 6'5", 4'3", 2-year-old. Some of y'all got kids with ADHD at 3. Are you crazy? A reading disability in kindergarten. How can you have a reading disability at 5 and you just started learning how to read? It's insane. I get them sent to me, I call the parent up. Let me get this cool on the phone. Excuse me, is this Shaquita? Shaquita, I got paperwork here that says you want your 5-year-old son in kindergarten and we hate black people elementary school. You want to test it? You want to test it for a reading disability? Yes, he has trouble with his letters. Of course, he lies. How about you work with him at home, Shaquita? Put the damn blood down. Okay? Yes, he's just starting school. He's struggling, yes. Can I ask y'all a question? Why do people don't expect kids to struggle no more when they learn? The minute our kids don't get it the first time, y'all think they got a disability. Do you realize 75% of all new readers will struggle? Only about 15% will learn how to read without an issue, but the minute your child stumbles over one word, oh my God, I need an iPad. And let me be more clear with y'all. Black children don't have learning disability problems. They don't have SLD, specific learning. You know what the real problem in Desoto, Texas is with our kids? It's not the specific learning disability. You know what they really got? Sloppy and lazy disability. I've been evaluating kids for almost a quarter century. And guess what? 85% of the kids I've tested, including white, Mexican, I've tested every race, every color, every culture. And 85% of them did not have learning problems. They had lazy problems. Which is why if I was in charge, we wouldn't diagnose the children, we diagnose their parents. Yep. Label your ass. That's right. He got a learning disability. Really? Let's go to your house real quick. Let's see how many books in there. None. Have y'all in here. If I go to your house, I bet you ain't no bookshelf in there. I bet you ain't no dictionary, thesaurus, encyclopedia, no reading material at all. But you got a lot of iPads and laptops and big screen TVs and how the hell your child can become an expert reader when he's not surrounded with reading material? When the last time you took him to a bookstore? When the last time you took him to a public library? When the last time you took him on an educational trip to the museum or a public lecture? If you don't create a culture of academic excellence, what do you do? Helping the prisons lock up black males. What's the average reading level of a black male in America jail? 4th grade. What's the average grade at which they put black kids in special ed with your help? 4th grade. I speak in prisons on a regular basis, and nothing hurts me more than when I ask all the prisoners, black and white, how many of you was in special ed? Raise your hand. Man, every hand in the jail goes up. Stop putting your kids in special ed. It's nothing but a fast track to prison. Stop it. Make them learn. Make them work. When I opened up the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, and thank you to all my Desoto family who've been donating and supporting us through this process. But when we opened up that school in Wilmington, Delaware, all the kids whose parents made them believe that they got disabilities, guess what? I'm gonna have a special assembly for them, just like y'all sitting here. I'm gonna bring them all in. And I'm gonna say, you're here because you was raised on special ed and excuses. You was raised on ADHD excuses. And reading disability excuses. And math disability excuses. Now, since we are an independent school, we are not required to have a special ed program. But we do have something special for you. And that is weekend school. You will be here from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on Saturday and Sunday until you can read, count, and sit the hell still. School will let me after 2 weeks. I will have no reading problems, no math problems, no ADHD problems. Your children pull them games on you all because they know you don't have much more discipline than they have. And by the way, what's the most important job of a black parent in racist America? The most important job you have with your children is to teach them discipline. And what is Dr. Umar's definition of discipline? It is the ability for your child to do what has to be done when it needs to be done, whether they like it or not. If your child put down the video game and start studying for tomorrow's test, can your child walk off the basketball court without you pulling them off and go get ready for tomorrow's quiz? Your child is at home right now. Are they going to have done what you told them to get done before you return tonight? If your child does not have self-discipline, then this American social order is waiting to gobble his ass up. That's right. Sexual discipline, financial discipline, academic discipline, emotional discipline, industrial discipline. A black boy better have it. And if you don't, America will be waiting to cash in on. Because in case you ain't been paying attention, black failure is the most lucrative industry in this country. How many judges get paid because black boys ain't got no discipline? How many halfway houses and prisons and probation officers and because black boys ain't got no discipline? And to my single black mothers, I say thank you for taking care of the children as well as you have. Because had it not been for the black woman, I don't know what condition our community would be in as a result of not absentee fathers, but black men who were targeted by America's criminal justice system and kept from being in their children's life. So I say thank you to the mothers, but some of y'all need to do a better job. Because I see a lot of single black mothers loving their son instead of raising them. I would dare say to my beautiful African queens, and I love all of you, I don't care what complexion you is, I like the butter almonds, the butter pecans, the African lemonades, the African vanillas, I like the chocolate fudge, the caramel, the hot pistachio, and the royal peanut butter. But anyway, black woman, it is hypocritical for you to say that you can't find a good black man, and yet you're not raising one yourself. So much of what black women look for in a man, you are not inculcating in your own prince. You want a hard-working man, Raheem lazy as hell. You want a man who respects the black woman, Raheem don't even respect you. Be careful of what you produce. Your karma may come back home. But I will say this to the black men in the audience. No black woman should have to raise a boy on her own. We should be volunteering, showing up. We should know every house in Desoto, every house in Dallas, every house in Fort Worth, every house in Arlington where there's a mother raising a boy on her own. And some black man, whether he come from the church, whether he come from a Masonic lodge, whether he come from one of those black fraternities, whether he come from a community-based organization, somebody should be knocking on that door. We understand you have boys in here who don't have a father in the house. Is that correct? Well, guess what? I got 2 sons of my own, but from now on, when they go with me, I'm bringing your son too. That's what we're supposed to do. Not blaming the black woman for everything that goes wrong in the ghetto, because black women have become a scapegoat. When we see the boys kill each other, well, their mothers would just raise them, right? Last time I checked, the African proverb says, it takes a village to raise a child. Not a single black mother. Black mothers should get help from all over Desoto. Where the black churches at? Where the community-based organizations at? Where the black elected officials at? All these stakeholders in the black community, and we would keep on scapegoating the black mother. It's not acceptable. So rule number 1, no evaluations for 7 years old and younger. Because guess what? You can't prove a learning disability. Let me say that again, Texas. You cannot prove a learning disability. Oh yeah. There's no blood test to prove a reading disability. There's no CAT scan to prove a reading disability. There's no urine sample to prove a math disability. There is no scientific way to verify whether or not your child really has a learning disability. The learning disability is nothing more than a professional guess. It is a working hypothesis. All the tests I give your child, they only give me scores. I told you earlier, they don't give us labels. We decide whether we think these scores are telling me that Raheem has reading problems and needs special ed. But I know the real reason why Raheem is behind. You know why Raheem behind? Raheem been to 5 or 6 schools in 3 or 4 years. You know why Raheem behind? Raheem gets suspended 10 days every month. He misses 2 weeks of instruction due to the same white teacher who wants Raheem in special ed is the same one who keeps suspending him so he never learns how to read. Wow. Wow. And y'all don't make the connection? Somebody call you into a meeting and say your son needs special reading help, and the same person who wants your son in special ed is keeping him from learning how to read because he's always been put out the class or suspended? How do you not make the connection? Which is why I say there's no such thing as a dropout rate in the black community. There's no such thing as a dropout. There's a push out. Our children are pushed out by the poor treatment that they receive. The next great revolution in child protective services, the next great revolution in child protective services would not be taking kids away from the parents, but taking kids away from trifling teachers. I've seen teachers destroy the self-esteem of their students and nothing happens. I've seen teachers verbally abuse their children and nothing happens. I've seen it in public schools, private schools, parochial schools, and independent schools. And I'm not down with teachers because I know some good ones. I know some excellent white teachers. Oh, yes, I do. I've worked with excellent white teachers. I've worked with excellent teachers of every race. But I also know that the American public school system, as it relates to black children, our inner city schools, our black community schools are proliferated with poor teachers. You know why? Because we get the worst ones. The school system is set up that the best teachers go to the schools who don't need them as much. The worst teachers go to the schools who can't afford to have a poor teacher. The ghetto schools have the newest teachers and the worst teachers. They set it up like that. And nobody wants to stop special ed anyway. Why? Because special ed is a business. Did y'all know that? Special ed is a hustle. Did y'all know that? Special ed is a racket. Every time I qualify your child for special ed, their name goes into the computer. It gets transferred to the State Department of Texas, Education. And by the end of the month, there's a welfare check sent to your child's school district with their name on it. Special ed is a business. Special ed children are worth, on average, twice as much as the regular children. Did y'all know that? Oh, yeah. Their learning disability got a dollar sign in front. ADHD got a dollar sign in front. Intellectual disability got a dollar sign in front. Conduct disorder got a dollar sign in front. This is about money. That's right. Ain't nobody thinking about helping your child. They want the money. So you put a 6-year-old, 7-year-old second grader in special ed. He got 10 more years before he graduates 12th grade. If they're spending $15,000 a year on kids in Desoto, hypothetically, $15,000 for the regular kids, once I qualify your child for special ed, he's worth $30,000 now. That's an extra $15,000. He got 10 more years of school. You know what that means? 10 more years times an extra 15. He's worth $150,000 more. That's for one kid. What about 100 of them? What about 1,000 of them? How many black kids in special ed in Dallas? How many black kids in special ed in Houston? How many black kids in special ed in DeSoto, Fort Worth, San Antonio, Longview? Do we even know how much money Texas schools is making by misdiagnosing black kids? You thought slavery was over. Slavery ain't over. It only changed form. Black kids are still the opportunity. And I'm going to tell you parents something. You better listen to me well, but I know you won't. And I'm going to tell you anyway. Because God requires that I tell you. Rule number 2, if you don't believe in drugging your child, you don't believe in ADHD diagnosis or evaluations. I'm going to say it one more time. If you do not plan to give your child crack for kids, because that's what Ritalin is, crack for kids. That's what Adderall is, crack for kids. That's what Meditate is, crack for kids. That's what Cyclert is, crack for kids. Ritalin is one molecule away from street crack. And the Drug Enforcement Agency of America, don't believe me, look it up. The DEA classifies Ritalin in the same group with opium and heroin. It's a Schedule B drug. That ain't me, that's the U.S. government. And y'all giving y'all kids crack so they can sit still long enough to learn about Helen Keller, Anne Frank, and Christopher Columbus. You watch your damn minds. Wish you would try to give my son some drugs so he can digest this polluted education he got. In Texas, y'all off the chain with y'all education system. They down here trying to pass laws that say you can't even teach about slavery no more in Texas. Y'all not alone. There's other states too, but Texas is one of them. I don't know if the law passed or they're still trying to get it passed in the Texas state legislature. They don't want slavery taught. Not only that, they don't want you to teach racism either. But it's okay to teach all this other stuff that I'm not going to get into. It's okay to teach that, but don't teach them who they are. But guess what? I'm not going to fault the Texas school system for not teaching kids Black history. You know why? Because we have enough black churches that should be doing that themselves. We got a black church in every other corner. We want black kids to know who they are. Why get the church over there and give them some black history lessons? With all due respect, today is the 202nd. I'm going to hit that 7 o'clock. I see my time going. I'm catching the African Holy Ghost. Lord, good God! Good God! Today is the 202nd birthday of Queen Mother Araminta Ross, a.k.a. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was born today, 202 years ago. Other than Nat Turner, she's probably the greatest revolutionary to walk on American soil. Her and Nat Turner 1 and 2. I didn't say black, I said period. Thomas Jefferson couldn't tie his shoes, nor George Washington. That little black woman escaped from slavery to freedom. Had the audacity to go back. More than 30 journeys to free African folks. Free her mother, her father, her brothers, her sisters. But yet you're giving our daughters Michelle Obama, who has done what for black people? I'm waiting! Kamala Harris, who has done what for black people? I'm waiting! After Queen Mother Harriet freed her mother and father, they begged her. They said, Minty, don't go back. Her former slave master had a bounty on her head of about $40,000, $50,000, the equivalent of about $3 million today. Harriet Tubman told her mother and father, no uncertain terms, parents. The good Lord gave me this mission to do what I'm doing, and I will not fail him. And if I get captured in my work, I will take it as a message from Almighty God that I have done my duty and it's time to come on home. Not only that, when she was done with the Underground Railroad, that black woman opened up an old folks home for black folks. Because you know when you can no longer work for the slave master, they turned you over to die in the street like dogs. So Harriet Tubman bought some property up in Auburn, New York, and opened up an old folks home. She didn't have no doctorate degree. She didn't have no master's of bachelor's. She just had a heart for her people. And then after she opened up the old folks home, she didn't stop there. She had the nerve and the audacity. She was no more than 5 foot tall, 100 pounds soaking wet. She didn't open up a hospital too. Right there on her land. An old folks home, a hospital. But then Harriet said, I got to have money to operate the old folks home and a hospital. So she opened up a farm. Right there. Little old black woman. And you sitting around in Desoto complaining about what black folks can't do and you're a $2 trillion people. And then Harriet Tubman gets a phone call from the U.S. Border Department. They said, Minty, can you come on down to South Carolina? We need somebody with your skills to serve as a nurse and a spy and a scout. Harriet Tubman said sure, so she put the hospital and the old folks home and the farm on pause, and she went down to aid the Union cause in 1861. And guess what? They never paid her a penny. She made money by washing soldiers' clothing and by taking care of their wounds and cooking food, and she sent the money up to Auburn to pay the bills. And Harriet Tubman, they never tell you this, not even on Veterans Day do they tell you this, Harriet Tubman is the only woman in American history to lead soldiers in a battle when she did during the Civil War. Yes! The only woman in the history of this country to lead soldiers in the battle, Harriet Tubman. And when she retired, would you believe they wouldn't even give her a soldier's pension? So somebody help me understand how Harriet Tubman, who did more than most people to keep America one country instead of letting it split into two, couldn't get a soldier's pension. But now y'all want to put her face on the front of the $20 bill. You damn hypocrites. Wouldn't pay her the money she was owed in her life, and now you want her to be the face of the money. Black people, we cannot afford to fall for empty symbols. They just put Maya Angelou on a quarter. I don't give a damn about no Maya Angelou quarter. You want to impress me? How about we pass that Emmett Till police, anti-lynching bill? a posthumous Congressional Medal of Honor. So let me get this straight. You want to honor them 50 years after he died, after he was lynched. No justice at all. Nobody ever went to jail for what they did to Emmett Till. Right. But you want to give him a Medal of Honor while he's in the grave. Give his mother a Medal of Honor while she's in the grave. I don't want that crap. They just gave us a Harriet Tubman statue in Philadelphia 2 weeks ago. Really? Philadelphia leads the nation in homelessness for black people, gentrification for black people. And you want to give us a statue. Joe Biden made Juneteenth a holiday this past June. More empty symbols for Negroes who can't think straight. I don't want no damn empty symbols. Keep your Maya Angelou quarter, keep your Harriet Tubman $20 bill, keep your Emmett Till Congressional Medal of Honor, keep your Juneteenth holiday. Give me justice, damn it. I want justice. I want justice. Joe Biden, when you got elected, the first thing you did in office was you signed an anti-transgender bill. I ain't got no problem with that. I might not agree with the lifestyle, but I agree nobody should be hurt. I don't have a problem with your anti-transgender bill, but I want to know how that gets signed before you do anything about police genocide for black people. When the Atlanta Parkland murders happened, and you signed the anti-Asian hate bill, I don't have no problem with that. What happened to them Chinese women was wrong, but how do you sign that before you do something for all these black women who get beat, raped, killed by your police, and kidnapped? You put more than $2 billion to the side for Afghan refugees coming to America. They getting free housing, free medical care, free jobs. How can you do that with all the homeless black people in this country? You want to give the Mexicans at the border $450,000 a piece for being separated from their children. I don't have a problem with that. But how do they get $450,000 for being separated from their children when you've been separating black mothers from black children for hundreds of years? Yes, I can. Just the other week, Joe Biden signed a Native American bill to investigate violence against Native Americans. I ain't got no problem with that. Their life is no worth no less than mine. But how do you sign a bill to investigate violence against Native Americans when black people are the #1 victims of hate crimes in this country and when they sign nothing for us today? They get laws, we get orders. They get resources, we get medals of honor. They get executive orders, we get holidays. But it's our fault too. Because when Barack Obama got elected, black people thought you wanted something. He's the first president in American history who black people didn't make do one thing for him. You sat there and celebrated as if he meant something. I told you before Obama got elected that after he's gone, we will be in a situation worse than Jim Crow. And that's exactly what you see. The reason Donald Trump didn't have to do nothing for black people is because you said Obama didn't have to do nothing but be black. You had the nerve to say that for the world to hear. The reason Joe Biden didn't have to do nothing for black people because Obama did. We set a dangerous precedent by letting a Negro in the White House who cared nothing about you sit there and cater to everybody else but you. And even now he's out of office. Him and Michelle running around selling those autobiographies, making billions of dollars. According to the latest report, Michelle and Obama's autobiography will make American history. They are on target to be the most read book ever published in this country since the Holy Bible. The only books that would have sold more in American history is the Holy Bible. And why are people buying those books? Because they were black. So you're benefiting off of blackness, but you did nothing for blackness while you were in the White House. And you Negroes think Kamala Harris going to do something for you too. See, you got a mental illness! And now everybody worried about who's Joe Biden going to nominate to fulfill the Supreme Court vacancy. Because when he ran, Joe Biden said he was going to nominate the first black woman to the Supreme Court, he might give you one too. But she won't think just like he wanted to think. Just like Clarence Thomas thinks, just like Barack Obama thinks, just like Michelle and Condoleezza Rice and Kamala Harris think. Which is why for me, to be black requires a positive answer to two questions, not one. Yes, you must be biologically African, but you must be psychologically African. If you don't think progressively about the best interests of our people, then you're not black people. Brothers and sisters, do not get your children evaluated for ADHD if you don't plan on medicating them, because the only purpose for the diagnosis is to get the medication. Once you get the paperwork, they're going to call CPS, Child Services of Desoto, on you, and they're going to say, we got a child diagnosed with ADHD, a conduct disorder, or ODD, and the parent don't want to medicate them, and they're going to threaten them. Give them the pills, or we're going to take all your children. Oh yes, one of the number one reasons why black parents are losing their children is called medical neglect. They're charging you with medical neglect because you don't want to give your children crack so they can sit still and be miseducated. They will take them from you. Remember this, they can't make you medicate your child, but once they get that ADHD label, they can force it. They can't make you put your child in special ed, but once you put them in there, they can force you to keep them in there. So I need y'all to understand the best intervention is prevention. No special ed unless it's necessary, and no psychiatric meds, in my opinion, unless it's to deal with homicide, suicide, or psychotic disorders. I would never drug my child because the teacher says to me, you are out of your mind. The problem is these black boys, these black male teachers. These black boys, these black male teachers. Give every black boy in Texas a black male teacher. There will be no more gangs, no more ADHD, no more dropout, no more low scores. They need men who look like them to pull out the God living within them. Give them black men. But they're not going to do that. Because I've already told you. America functions on white privilege. We need these black boys to fail. We need black boys to think the only thing you can be in life is a soldier for the white man's army, or a football player or basketball player for the white man's franchise. It hurts my heart when I go and speak at these schools and I ask black boys, what do you want to be? I just spoke with some students the other day. What do you want to be? In 2022, everybody still wants to be a basketball player, football player, or a rapper. Hurts my heart. And I got to tell these young brothers, I don't want you to be LeBron James. I respect LeBron, but I don't want you to be LeBron. I want you to be the owner of the Lakers who pays LeBron. Don't be the greatest football player you can be. Be the greatest owner of a football team. If it was up to me, NFL and NBA would be outlawed for a while. We need a moratorium because it's not benefiting the black community. These celebrities ain't coming back and building the institutions we need. All I see is white women getting married and taking all the money. That's all I see. No disrespect. But I don't support interracial between black and Indians. Why not? It ain't because I hate white women or Chinese women or Mexican women or none of that. I respect all females. But the reason I'm against interracial marriage is for political and economic reasons, not emotional. Marriage is a contract. It's a business contract. And women outlive men. Most men in here will not survive your wife. She will survive you. And when you pass on, is your white wife going to come back and use some of your money to help out black America? Is she going to come and open up a community center in DeSoto with your millions? I think we have enough examples of rich black men who marry white girls to know they don't come back to give any of that money to your community. So the reason I must oppose interracial relationships is because we as a people need as much as we can get. So how can I condone a black man marrying a non-black woman who's going to take all of this you built on the shoulders of my ancestors and not give none of it back? That's why I'm against it. You take from those who don't have enough, and you give to those who have taken so much. And if you claim your white wife is so not racist, what is she doing to make the schools better? Since you claim your white wife is so not racist, what is she doing to change the criminal justice code? I'm trying to find out what all these liberal white women marrying these rich black men are doing to make black people's lives better. Not a damn thing. The white woman that sleeps with a black man is no different than the white woman who sleeps with the white man. Racism is racism. Oh my God, does he know he's in Texas? It's true, brothers and sisters. All white people are racist. All of them. Yes. I didn't say white people hate black people. Some do, a lot of them do, but not all of them. But you don't have to hate black people to be a racist. Racism has nothing to do with emotion. You know what racism is about? Racism is about control of three things: resources, privileges, and opportunities. You do not have to hate black people to be a racist. You simply must desire white people to always have a lopsided advantage. It is not a white person in Desoto who does not enjoy the white privilege they benefit from as a result of your bias, your inequity, your injustice, and your lack of opportunity. If you know a white person who has ever walked the planet Earth who tried to get rid of their white privilege, please call their name. Including your white-ass wife. As I prepare to wrap up. Parents, don't sign anything unless you understand it. Take your phone out. I'm going to make sure you have my phone number in case you ever need to reach Dr. Umar. You have to get a document from your child's school and you don't know what it means, take a picture of it, text it to me. Dr. Umar, they just sent this home. I don't know what this means. Can you tell me what they're up to? Because one of the things they do now in America, because of my work, because I'm the only psychologist who does this, the other ones that get paid. You can't find another black psychologist who educates you about the school system the way that I do, because they're getting paid off the damn system. All you have to do is call on me and I will help you with your child. Phone number 215-989-9858. I repeat, 215-989-9858. That's my personal cell. I don't answer the phone, but you can text me. Ladies, it's not that type of phone. No first! Let me say this. We know that America put black America in the situation we in. We know that. But I also want you to understand that black America keeps black America in the situation she's in. Do you realize that when I travel the country, brothers and sisters, as I wrap up, I'm going to take a few questions before I start signing books and taking pictures. But there's 50 million black people in this country. 50 million. And if we add our Afro-Latino brothers and sisters, then it even gets bigger. 50 million. And for my Afro-Latino brothers and sisters in the audience, I consider you one of us too until you don't identify. As long as you accept your African roots, you're my brother or my sister. I treat you no different than anybody in here. Same thing goes for my mixed race African brothers and sisters. You got a white mama or a white daddy, that is not your fault. You're still one of us. But you must identify with us. Don't be black at the Dr. Umar lecture and white as hell in the suburbs. Pick a side! You will not ride the fence for me. Where was I at? I had an ADHD moment. Say that again. Ladies, stop it! So, what I was saying was, there's 50 states and there's 50 million Africans spread out across 50 states. What hurts my heart as I travel the world, and for those of you who have family or friends in Shreveport, I'll be going to Shreveport for the first time tomorrow. Shreveport, Louisiana. I'll be speaking at the Booker T. Washington High School. That's a 4:30 program, and it's free. I haven't been to a black community in America. 50 states, 50 million blacks. I haven't been to a community nowhere in this country where we own the school independently, the bank independently, the hospital independently, the supermarket independently. The four essential institutions of a community: school, teach the people; hospital, save the people; supermarket, feed the people; bank, invest in the people. We keep talking about Black Wall Street. Black Wall Street, Tulsa. Black Wall Street, Rosewood. Black Wall Street, Wilmington, North Carolina. Black Wall Street, Charleston. If you love Black Wall Street so much, why are you not building one? Why we ain't got a Black Wall Street in Dallas, a Black Wall Street in Houston? Why we ain't got one right here in DeSoto? Well, we can spend $2 billion on Air Jordans every year. We can spend $4 billion on liquor and alcohol every year. $30 billion on weed, perm, and beauty every year. Over $3 billion on video games every year. $1 billion on McDonald's every year. Now don't get me wrong, every once in a while, I will sneak in a fillet of fish. I don't want to be a hypocrite. Every once in a while, I need an egg and cheese biscuit in the morning. Just every once in a while. Lord forgive me. They just be calling me sometimes. Did you say hash brown? But brothers and sisters, if you can give McDonald's $1 billion a year, why we ain't got no schools in DeSoto that we own and run? Why we ain't got a bank in DeSoto that we own and run? All these black farmers, we ain't got no Whole Foods store that we own and run. Brothers and sisters, America is done helping black folks. Not that she never has, but she's done. Any saving to be done for us must be done by us, and we better accept it. As I conclude, I want to tell my parents out here that you are in charge. You are in control. Stop letting the school make you think they can do what they want with your child. If your child gets evaluated and you don't agree with the diagnosis or the classification, you have a right to a second opinion. It's called the independent educational evaluation. I talk about it in my book. All you got to do is write a letter to your child's principal. Principal Schwarzenberger. My son Raheem was evaluated by your child's study team. Y'all determined that he had a reading disability. I don't think my son had a reading disability. I know he's in the 5th grade reading on the 3rd grade level, but let me tell you why. The reason he's in the 5th grade reading on the 3rd grade level is because he was home for a whole year during COVID. He got almost no instruction. That teacher only taught my kids on the computer an hour a day. Y'all know what I'm talking about. And guess what the schools are doing in Texas and everywhere else in America? They're trying to give as many black kids as special ed as possible, and y'all letting them do it. You should never agree to them being tested. They've been home for almost 2 years. Of course they're going to be behind, because them teachers wasn't teaching your child. You saw how weak those lessons were. Of course he's behind. All he needs is a tutor, though. Use some of that Title I money you get. You're not going to put my kid in special ed for a skills gap COVID and you created. My son is 2 grade levels behind because he gets suspended so much. He's 2 grade levels behind because he had over 10 substitutes in that class. Some of y'all children are being taught by teachers who are long-term substitutes who don't even have a license or a cert to teach. And you got the audacity to let somebody who don't know how to teach reading tell you your child got a reading disability. Don't go to the school by yourself. Whenever there's a school meeting, take somebody with you. Never go alone. Mothers, I hope you're listening. Black fathers, I hope you're listening. I know men who can't go to the school ever again. Can't even go to the child's graduation because you showed up by yourself and they told you they wanted your son on medication. You didn't agree with it. They kept on persisting. You got loud, and that white teacher exaggerated your behavior. He said his voice got loud and his vein popped out his forehead and my back gave out and my liver stopped working. And you got a restraining order because the white teacher lied on you. You can never come to the school meeting. I know men right now, fathers, you can't go back because they didn't listen. Why did you go by yourself? Take a woman with you. Brothers, gentlemen, whenever you go to a school meeting about your child, try to bring a woman with you. You need a witness and you need some feminine energy to balance out the room. Women, when you go, try to take a man. Ideally, you want the mother and father to be there together. If y'all can't get along, bring your brother, bring your uncle, bring your cousin. But make sure he's an alpha there. Don't bring a beta. Bring a man with some strength. And if you can't find no man with no strength, you go to the corner, you get Mike, and John, the weed boys to cover this shit. I mean it. You tell Mike, I'm going to text you. First, I'm finding out how many rifles they got in the meeting. I want you to bring equal number of corner boys. If I say 10, come here with 10 of them. White beaters, pants sagging, boxers showing, Timberlands. Damn right. You tell them, don't sit down. I need y'all standing at all times. Hands folded, and I need y'all to look mean as hell. And if the white folks start ganging up on me, Mike, I want you to hit the table as hard as you can. Boom! And say, I'm not feeling this. And if the white folks see that, won't be no special ed, no evaluations, no ADHD, they will wish us all a good night. Because white folks don't know how to deal with black men who ain't got nothing to lose. Why they always gang up on black parents? You go to the school meeting to talk about your daughter, one black mother, they got 10 school personnel. Right? The principal, the vice principal, the principal intern, the dean of students, the school social worker, the school nurse, the school psychologist, the school counselor, the home in school, the math specialist, the reading specialist, the floor sweeper, the trash man, the bus driver, and more. You know why? They want to intimidate you, make you think you don't know what you're talking about, make you think they know more about your child than you do. That's why you never go by yourself. And after you leave a meeting, what are you supposed to do? And all this is in my book if you care to read it. Send a follow-up letter or email summarizing what y'all talked about and what your understanding is as to the next steps. Don't you ever leave a meeting and you don't send an email or a letter to summarize. Because if you don't do that, the schools will participate in what I call academic amnesia. They will selectively forget what they agreed to do. They will selectively forget what they promised you, and you can't prove they're lying because you went by yourself and you didn't send a follow-up letter. Last word. I have complete faith that we as black people will come out of the situation we are in, but we need unity. We have to get over our petty differences. I'm tired of the light skin, dark skin. Whether you're born in Africa or America, or you're born in Puerto Rico or Texas, black is black. It doesn't matter the language, it doesn't matter the flag, it doesn't matter the religion. We are all members of God's original human family. Every other group comes from us, and we come from God. Black people are the chosen people, brothers. Black girls are leading the country in suicide. If you have a teenage daughter, I hope you are cultivating your relationship with her. COVID has seen black teenage girls from 14 to 17 outdistance everyone else in suicide rate. You know why? What I hated most about the COVID quarantine was the fact that school was the only outlet many of our children had. Even though they are horrible, even though they play with violence and mistreatment, schools were the only outlet for a lot of our children. So a lot of our daughters who were being sexually abused didn't have the outlet for a whole year. A lot of our daughters who were being verbally abused didn't have that outlet. Victims of sibling rivalry, victims of their own body dysmorphic ideas, victims of their own low self-esteem, they had nobody to go to, nobody to talk to, and they started taking their own life. Even though it's the leading cause of death for black girls 14 to 17 right now, they have the highest rate of suicide right now, black girls 14 to 17. It's the second leading cause of death for black boys up until age 19. So suicide is a big problem in our community. And black women, your suicide rates are the highest they have been ever in this country's history. And I'm going to tell you why. The reason why black women have a suicide epidemic is because black women have allowed the white power structure of this country, including its media and propaganda system, to exploit your strength to the point where you are not allowed to be vulnerable. Black women are the only women in America who cannot be vulnerable or feminine. You have to be a strong black woman 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And y'all wear this so proudly, failing to realize it's being used to trap you away from getting help when you need it. If a white woman says, I'm tired of being alone, I want a husband, she's being feminine. A black woman say, I'm tired of being alone, I want a husband, you're so weak. If a Latino woman say, I need help raising my voice, she's being feminine. Women need help. Let a black woman say she needs help raising her voice. Black women will condemn and criticize her for being weak. Black women, y'all need to take back your femininity. Y'all need to take it back. Stop letting this world turn you into a masculinized version of a man. You're not a man. You're equal to men, but you're not a man. Under no circumstances should the black woman ever endorse a narrative of her power that says she don't need a timeout. Because y'all do. Y'all raising kids, y'all going to college, operating businesses, taking care of your parents, and y'all not getting no break. And unfortunately, some of y'all go to churches that reinforce this dysfunctional idea of a strong black woman that says if you show weakness, it's because you lost faith in Christ. It has nothing to do with it. You are still a human being, and you need a break like any other human being. And if you don't take that break, your consciousness will take it for you. It will create a new personality. And one day you're walking down the middle of a major boulevard in Desoto with no clothes on, talking to yourself. And everybody said, what happened to her? She was so strong. You know what happened? She needed a break and didn't take one, so her mind gave her one. That's what a nervous breakdown is. Take a break before your mind takes a break. You better learn the art of self-care. Because there's too many black women who don't think they got a right to hurt and don't think they got a right to get help. Do you know why people go to therapists? Why do people come to us? People pay for something that they should be able to get for free. You know why? Because there's three things you get when you pay for therapy that you're not liable to get from even your friends and family. Number one, somebody to listen to you without interrupting you. Number two, somebody to keep your deepest secrets and never tell it to another person. And number three, somebody to care about your situation without trying to impose their own agenda on you. That's why people come to therapy. And it's a shame that you got to pay a stranger to hear you out, because friends and family are too conniving, dishonest, and selfish to give you their unbiased attention. But with that being said, if any of you are ever in need of a therapist, because you need counseling, or a psychologist because you need an evaluation, you can always text that number. I know psychologists around the country. You shouldn't have trouble helping you find one. Remember, you don't go to psychologists because you're crazy. You go to psychologists to keep from getting crazy. I close with a quote from my ancestor, Frederick Douglass. My family came to America in 1701. A black man by the name of Bailey, stolen from the Igbo nation of Nigeria. He was brought to Tubman County, Eastern Shore, Maryland. He married a black woman by the name of Selah, for whom my 10-year-old daughter is named. In 1745, Grandmom Selah gave birth to Grandmom Jenny. In 1774, Grandmom Jenny gave birth to Grandmom Betsy. Grandmom Betsy was born enslaved, but she married a free black man, my grandpa Isaac. Together they had about 12 children, because on the plantation they made you breed to make sure they had enough field hands. One daughter was named Harriet. Another daughter was named Young Betsy after her mother, my 5 times great-grandmother. These two sisters, Harriet and Betsy, were raped by the white man who owned our family on the Eastern Shore of Maryland. In February of 1818, as a result of that rape, Aunt Harriet gave birth to arguably the greatest black leader in American history. His name, Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey. At the age of 20, cousin Fred ran away, changed his name. In New York, Fred Bailey became Fred Douglass to hide his identity on a fugitive slave trail. The next year, in 1819, my grandmother, young Betsy, gave birth to Frederick's half-brother, first cousin. Half-brothers because the slave master was their dad. First cousin because the slave master raped two sisters. And that was my 4 times great-grandfather, Stephen Henry Bailey. That's the very same Stephen Frederick mentions by name in his autobiographies. That's my 4 times great-grandfather. He's still buried in the family cemetery. I go visit him every year on his birthday. The Civil War starts. Grandpa Stephen marries Grandma Caroline. On November the 14th, 1841, they have my 3 times great-grandfather, George Washington Bailey, the first black public school teacher in Denton, Maryland, hometown of Harriet Tubman's parents. The Civil War starts. Frederick doesn't fight, but he sends 2 sons, Lewis and Charles. They go north to Boston. They fight in the Boston, Massachusetts 54th Colored Regiment, from where we get the movie Glory. Denzel Washington and Morgan Freeman. That movie is about my cousins, the sons of Frederick Douglass, but they were not alone. Martin Delaney, one of the grandfathers of Pan Afrikanism. I am a Pan Africanist. His son was also in the 54th Massachusetts Colored Regiment. Also, if memory serves me correctly, Denmark Vesey, who led the slave insurrection in Charleston, South Carolina, his son was also in the 54th Massachusetts, if memory serves me correctly. So my grandfathers, Stephen and George, fought in the U.S. Colored Troops of Maryland. When the Civil War was over, Grandpa George marries Grandma Annie. Grandma Annie has Grandma Caroline. She moves to Philadelphia. She has Grandma Vivian. Grandma Vivian marries Grandpa Cicero, Spanish-speaking Cuban from Havana, illegal immigrant. They have my grandmother Ida. She meets and marries James Johnson. They have my father Jamal Johnson. He meets and marries my mother Barbara. And on August the 21st, in the ghettos of North Philadelphia, the anniversary of the Haitian Revolution, August the 21st, the anniversary of the Nat Turner War, August the 21st, the anniversary of George Jackson's war against prison, August the 21st. The day Emmett Till arrived in Money, Mississippi to meet his fatal end, August the 21st, 1955. I was born in North Philly. My grandfather Stephen was here in Texas, in Galveston, on June 19, 1865, when General Gordon Granger read Special Order Number 3, giving emancipation to all Africans previously held in bondage, which became the Juneteenth holiday. My grandfather was there. Frederick Douglass said, if there is no struggle, there is no progress. Those who profess to favor freedom and deprecate agitation are like men who want crops without plowing up the ground. You want rain, but you're scared of the thunder or the lightning. Frederick Douglass said, a man may not get all you pay for, but you will pay for all that you get. And if we as a people are ever to become free of the injustices inflicted upon us, we will have to pay for their removal. We may have to pay with blood. We may have to pay with blows. We may have to pay with our life. But he who wants to be free must himself strike the first blow. Frederick Douglass said, for 20 years I prayed on my knees to God for freedom, but the good Lord gave me no freedom until I got up off my knees and started praying with my feet. He said, if you want respect from white people, why do you look for pity? The man who pities you will never respect you, and the man who respects you has no need for pity. But he said, most of all, remember, power conceives nothing without a demand. He who will not fight for his own freedom, when he has the means of doing so, isn't worth having fought for by others. The most honorable Marcus Garvey, who gave us the red, black, and green flag, and the largest black organization in modern history. Garvey said, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Garvey said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is this organization. He said a man and a woman without authority and power is a race without respect. Marcus Garvey said, if the black man and woman of America are not careful, you will drink in all the poison of Western civilization and die from the effects of it. Garvey was once asked, are you an African or are you a Jamaican? Are you an African or are you a Jamaican? In the leader of the largest black organization in modern history, the only leader of a mass movement who did not have to use religion to organize black people. Since you asked me, am I African or am I Jamaican, I say to you, I would never, ever give up a continent for an island. I am an African. Black power, Desoto Texas. If you got time for a few questions, do you have another microphone or just the one? You got two? Go ahead, Queen. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take a few questions. I know I went over. And once I'm done with the questions, and if you care to get a book, they are in the lobby. They're $50 a piece. And your credit card, cash, or Cash App. If you use Cash App, and it should be sending your payment to $ Dr. Umar Johnson. Do not send it to $ Dr. Umar. Be sure to add Johnson. Some coon created a fake Cash App called $ Dr. Umar. Make sure you put Johnson on it. But again, credit card, cash, or Cash App, Sister Sabrina is in the lobby with the books. If you have a question, raise your hand. I'm going to give you a number. We're going to take all the questions now. I'm going to give you a number now. So if you don't raise your hand now, you won't get a chance to ask one later. If you have a question, raise your hand at this time. Right here, number one. My brother, number two. Right next to you, number three. Queen, number four, with the mask on.
In the back.
In the back, where?
Way in the back.
Way in the back, five. Up against the wall. Is that it? We just have five? Once we cut, that's it. We got six over here. I'm sorry, my brother. Queen, you 7. Bob, you 8. And we will cut it right there. Please repeat your question. I will repeat the question. Please don't steal nobody else's question. Now, let me tell you a little secret. I've been doing Q&A all over the world. I've been every continent except Australia multiple times. I've never did a Q&A with black folks where somebody didn't forget their number or steal somebody else's. So let's see if Desoto Texas right now. Big history. Nobody will steal somebody else's number, and nobody will forget this. Let's see. Who's my number one? I won't repeat the question. Go right ahead. Queen at the back.
I have a mic for you, and I have a mask if you need me to have one. And y'all give it up for Dr. Umar. I always say when you Dr. Umar was with you until you said her.
That's all right, baby. You got time to throw it out. Get your new growth back.
Peace, Queen. Peace, King. I got 2 quick questions, if you don't mind.
Sure.
So I'm a part of a big knowledge group here, right here, Black Dollars and Johnson Collective. So we do a lot of events, we do get-togethers. So the first question is that a lot of people had in our group was about the schools and the donations. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of questions that people have, like where's the money, where's they going? I understand that you need a lot more money to operate a private school and millions and millions of dollars to get that. So some people want accountability with that. Maybe you can give us some receipts. Not for me, because I really don't care. Like, that's not my space, right? The second question that I have when it comes to black men is that how do I just want to get your advice on this, how do we as black men create a safe space where we can build, be vulnerable, and actually build families and communities without outside influence? Because when a lot of us as black men we don't have that safe space to build, we don't have that safe space to be vulnerable or transparent or even bring out themselves in order for us to build and things like that. So what kind of suggestion you have for that? Thank you, peace.
No problem, no problem. First question, as far as the accountability, I've never got those questions from my donors. My relationship with the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy donors is very tight, it's very close. They communicate with them, I communicate with them. We have a loyal donors chat on WhatsApp where we discuss what's going on with the school. Most of the concerns about the school are coming from people who don't care for me or the school and have never donated. So this whole nonsense about accountability is coming from you two being coons whose opinion are of no relevance to me. We have 4 buildings, modern buildings. Once the campus is renovated, we will be the largest independent black school campus in the country, and we will be the only independent school campus with 2 real schools for the people. So we are right on track where we want to be. There has been some frustration with the school campaign, not from donations, but because of unscrupulous black contractors. The reason our school is not ready yet is because of the drama and the trauma that comes with trying to use black people to do something for black people. We have been robbed by black contractors. We have been ripped off by black contractors. We have been sabotaged by black contractors. Right now, I'm trying to track down one of our contractors who's supposed to put the HVAC unit on top of the school. Now, he happens to be white. He's not black. But the point is, this entire 3 years that we've owned the school, which will be 3 years on February the 7th, we have been wrought with setback after setback from people who we pay to do a job, and they either don't do it right, don't finish it, or take your money and don't come back. Yeah. Our painter took the money, didn't come back. Electricians took the money, we had to fire them because they were stealing out the school, and then they put a white guy in the school to do the work instead of a black guy, and he stole from us. I can write a whole book on how much we've been sabotaged in these 3 years. But, be that as it may, I believe God put us there for a reason. It was a $2 million campus, we could not afford it, but we were able to talk the owners down to finally selling it to us for the monies that we did have 3 years ago. I love it. I hope all you come out. I'm inviting you all right now, Saturday, September the 10th, 601 East 17th Street in Wilmington, Delaware, which is only 20 minutes from the Philadelphia, Pennsylvania International Airport. Fly into Philly and drive 20 minutes to the front door of our school. We had our first festival last year, September the 11th of 2021, and the second festival will be September the 10th, 2022. Food, games, vendors, performers, giveaways, it was beautiful. And if any of you want to be a vendor, if any of you would like to perform on our stage, you will be able to register on April the 1st. All of our vendors sold out. Most of them sold out halfway through the day. That's how many people came out, and that's how well that they did. But I do want to be honest. If you have not donated to the school, you will not be vending and you will not be performing. If you don't support us, we do not support you. We're trying to open up schools for our children. That's what we're trying to do. The school in Delaware will only be the first. Once it's open, we want a school in Dallas. I want one in Houston. I want one in Desoto. I want one in Chicago, Detroit, Africa, London, Jamaica, global. So this is just the beginning of what I hope to be, a global movement for independent education for black children. I want to leave this earth as being the first superintendent of a global revolutionary school district for black children. That's my goal. That's my give back to the people. So again, thank you. Please continue to donate. You can donate on your Cash App, $FDMG School. And here's some fake ones, so make sure you do $FDMG School because the coons are active. PayPal, paypal.me/FDMG Academy. When you buy your book today, you're going to get a bookmark. The bookmark has the donation information. You also have my cell number. You can text me for the donation information. So that's to the first question. There's no accountability issues except with people who could care less about the school. As far as black men having a space of our own, I think that's a great question. I think, number one, we as black men have to get control of our egos. The biggest problem facing black men's ability to organize and help our community and our sisters is the ego of the Negro. Black men suffer from a deep-seated HNIC syndrome, head Negro in charge. And it is so toxic that we all want to be the leader and nobody wants to be the followers. That's the problem we have as black men. And that emasculated ego comes from the fact that America has never allowed us to realize our masculine potential. So when we get around all black spaces like this, we become dictators. We don't practice democracy because we're so used to being shut out that when we get a chance to be on top, we let it go to our head and we never share the spotlight with nobody else. Why is there a million churches in the black community? Not because everybody's in love with Christ. It's because when a young pastor comes out of seminary school, he wants to get some sermons. But the old pastor don't want to move over. And the young pastor get tired of reading, so he opened up a church. And guess what? When he became the elder, instead of learning from what was done to him, he repeats the same dysfunctional behavior of not giving the youth an opportunity to shine. That's why we build in the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy. I want to have a whole army of black boys who can go anywhere in the world and build independent institutions. We will be teaching agricultural and agronomical science, dietary and nutritional science, political and military science, financial and economic science, African spiritual and cosmological science, and science of the black man, woman, and child. That's what we will be teaching at the school. Every boy will learn 2 African languages. He will have his own business plan. He will be invested in stock in elementary school. He will also be a member of the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Junior Gun Club. We will be teaching self-defense with weapons and without weapons. We are building men and leaders. That is the purpose of FDG. And once the boys' school is open, we will open the girls' school, the Anna Douglas and Amy Garvey Academy for young African princesses. But I want all my mothers to understand, when your daughter shows up at the Princess Academy, she must show up 100% happy to be nappy. No weave, no perm, no straightening comb, no European hair color. She must come with her own hair. Why? Because the most important thing I got to teach our daughters is what? How to love themselves. If she don't love herself, anything else I teach her is useless. She got to look in the mirror and love what God made. So at FDMG, all natural. And if you want to work at the school, send me your resume. That's also going to be on your bookmark, but you can text me for it. FDMG Resumes with an S. That's FDMG Resumes with an S at gmail.com. We're looking for American African teachers, Hispanic African teachers. I'm looking for my teachers from London. We're going to have teachers from Canada. I want my teaching corps to be representative of the entire Pan-African world. I want your children to learn from African people who look just like them, but might speak a different language and come from another place in the world. Even the boys' school will be co-ed when it comes to the teaching and the staff corps. So we will have female teachers for the boys' school, just like we will have male teachers for the girls' school. We need math, science, language, history, but that's not all we need. We need women who know how to do natural hair so they can teach it. We need men who know how to cut hair so they can teach it. We need people who know African martial arts. We need people who are experts in gun training. We need people who know how to sew and make clothing, because we're going to teach our children how to make their own clothes. Dr. John Henry Clark, one of the last great Pan-Africanists, said, people who don't make their own underwear are not worthy of running a nation. So the first thing our kids want to make at FDMG is their own damn drawers. They might be holy, they might not look right, but if they can come to school and say, Mama, I'm wearing the drawers, that's what we're going to be doing at FDMG. First 2 weeks of school will not be in school. We will take them up into the mountains so they can learn survival training, manhood training. They will learn the chants, they will learn the songs, they will learn the pledges, they will learn the motto of FDMG Academy. And then they come to the school. Every class will have dinner with me one night a week, and we will have a fireside chat where I will teach them the history of one of their great African ancestors. Brothers and sisters, the school that we are making has never been made for black people in this world. I don't know anybody who's doing it, and I will be the first. And you can learn more about it when you come September 10th. And I hope the Marcus Garvey Elementary School will be renovated by then, so you get a chance to walk through it and see it for yourself. Don't listen to YouTube, come see for yourself. Who's my number? That was number one?
Yeah, that was number one.
Lord, African holding us.
I know, right? Lord! You should have been 1, 2, 5, 9, and 10.
Oh, goodness.
We got 1 and 2 and 3 right here.
I'm going to take 2 and 3 and answer them together. That would be a little quicker.
Hey, Dr. Umar.
Yes, sir.
My name is Daniel. I'm from Dallas as well.
Yes, sir.
One question I had for you is, I don't know if you can tell, but I'm from Eritrea, but I'm a first generation here. So like one thing I look, like whenever I see everyone here, I really think, I'm like, wow, okay, so basically my children, my grandchildren, they're going to end up being more quote unquote American, even though I agree we're all black, we're all the same people and everything. But it's kind of hard though, because like our parents, when they came here, I already know that when they went to the immigration, they were taught, don't trust the black Americans, you know what I mean? They're basically, yeah, like, you know, like a lot of our African parents, like, you know, I don't think that they're necessarily taught that, but they're kind of like, they kind of instilled that kind of mentality in a way. But like a lot of us that we grew up here, we like, we're the same, we all know, you know what I mean? We're first generation. How can you help us as like Africans kind of like
trying to help teach our parents and teach our cousins, our church, everyone at our church, you know, so that we're all the same, that we all, I think they were all for each other, we should be for each other, and like how we can be more inclusive.
Good question. Being a true Pan-Africanist is probably the hardest thing to do in the world because our people are so infected with petty differences. When I go to Africa, if I'm in South Africa, I got to deal with the petty difference between the Zulu and the Xhosa. You see, if I'm in Nigeria, I got to deal with the petty difference between the Igbo and the Yoruba. If I'm in Kenya, I have to deal with the petty difference between the Maasai and the Kikuyu. You see, when I'm in East Africa, I got to deal with the petty differences between the Eritreans and the Ethiopians. You know exactly what I'm talking about. So my point is, to be truly Pan-Africanist, we have to rise above the ethnic and the tribal identity, not to dismiss it, but to rise above it, to embrace a greater African unity. Because only united will we win. White supremacy is totally united. That doesn't mean they get along all the time. Jews think they're better than Irish think they're better than Italians think they're better than Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Saxons think they're better than the Greeks and the Romans, but guess what? When it comes to white supremacy, they put all that to the side and they unite. You see it with the Asians. Chinese and Japanese don't get along, but everything Koreans and Cambodians don't get along, but when it's time to talk about the best interests of their race, they can take a time out from the petty differences. The only people who cannot stop fighting long enough to recognize they have a common enemy are African people. It is a global epidemic. There's nowhere I go where we're not fighting over petty differences. So to be a Pan-Africanist means you are the light. You are the light. We are the light. We come into the room and we say, I don't care who you are, what you believe in, what nation you come from, what language you speak, what religion you claim. We one family. And we are one family only. That's what Pan-Africanism means. Pan-Africanism means that we are black first, we are African first, and we identify with being African first because God made us African. You chose Christianity. You can give it up tomorrow if you want it. You chose Islam. You can give it up tomorrow if you want it. We've been trying to give up being black our entire existence, and you see you cannot give it up. Because God chooses your race. You choose everything else. And so for Pan-Africanists, there's nothing more sacred, nothing more divine, nothing more important to me than my Africanity. You are not a Muslim who happens to be black. You're a black man who happens to be a Muslim. You're not a Christian who happens to be African. You are African who happens to be Christian. If it can be changed, it's non-essential. The only thing you belong to that you can never get out of is your African race. And that's why we identify with that. One family is what we are. That's why I take issue with anybody who tries to separate us. I see you no different than the American Africans in here. When I'm in Jamaica, I see them no different than I see the Haitians. When I'm in Liberia next month, I see them no different than I see the Ghanaian. One race! Until we get to that, until we learn to stand together, divided we will fall. We must learn unity. The unity is the one solution. And the white power structure knows it. And that's why they do all they can to keep us divided. The U.S. government in the 1970s put out a position paper. And guess what the position paper said? There's only one threat. One threat to America's global agenda. And that is the political economic unification of Africans in America and Africans in the continent. They didn't say Islam. They didn't say Christianity. They didn't say a black Greek fraternity. They didn't say a Masonic lodge. They said the unity of Africans in America and Africans in Africa will spell the demise of white supremacy. And that's coming from the power structure. It is our global unity that they fear most. No matter what you do, no matter where you go, you push Pan-Africanism from the cradle to the grave. One people, one race, one family. That's all I believe. Number 3.
What's up? My name is Brooks. I was just wondering, why don't you ever talk about the black nation? Like, a lot of our problems would be solved if we had our own country within this country. I'm not saying, like, no violent means, like you said, we're 2 trillion other people every year we go out there and we spend $2 trillion. But if we harness our own economic potential, we could lobby for our own country. And I feel like a lot of our problems will be solved once we get the Black nation. So I was just wondering, why don't you ever talk about Black people's or African people's path to self-determination within this nation? Because even though Africans built this nation, they still call it Western civilization. And that's just a nice way for them to say it's a white people's country. So why don't we just build our own nation?
Firstly, I always talk about Black independence. You must not follow me. It's my whole message. Okay? But I think it's a good question. But I don't think I see it the way you see it. African people have dozens of nations all across this planet. Africa is the richest continent in the world, minimally speaking. No country can survive without Africa except Africa. Our responsibility, whether you build a nation of your own or not, is to forge a diplomatic relationship with other African nations so that you can empower them with your 2 trillion and they can empower you with protection. Why is it when George Floyd was killed, or Trayvon, or Tamir, or Sandra Bland, why didn't no African country, Caribbean country, South American, Black country speak out for us? Because we don't have a diplomatic relationship. We have cut ourselves off from our African kinfolk all around the world. See, one of the things we got to admit, we have gone so far trying to be accepted by whites in America that we disidentify from Africans in the diaspora. We did that. We have to rebuild and repair that relationship. See, you don't have to move back to Africa. Marcus Garvey never led a back to Africa movement. The media called it that. Yep. Marcus Garvey said, quote, "Some of you are no good in America, and will likewise be no good in Africa. I have no desire to take our Negroes back to Africa. Neither does Dr. Umar." Could you imagine if I brought a big ship to Texas and told every Negro in Texas to get on the ship? You will bring basketball, video games, white girls, weed, perms, Xbox. Africa got enough coons of our own. I do not want all of Black America to go to Africa. We'll mess it up. But to your point, if we want an independent nation, first of all, in my opinion, you can never truly be independent surrounded by a nation that your enemy controls. This is why, as Pan-Africanists, we disagree respectfully with our brothers in the Republic of New Africa, and respectfully with our brothers in the Nation of Islam. Because we do not believe there's no such thing as a nation within a nation. If America says, I'm going to give Black America Alabama, Mississippi, and Louisiana, to yourself, you're surrounded by white power on all fours. You have no access to major water nowhere. They can poison your air, poison your food, poison everything. So for us, anybody asking for a nation within a nation ain't serious about independence. It's secure. Okay? But we already have our countries. Let's go back to them and build them up. I don't need nothing new. I can go to what's already here and help that. You see? But here's where I want to go to. As you heard me say earlier, we don't have an independent community nowhere. We gotta have a community before we have a nation, right? So let's build one. You don't have to get no government approval to open up your own bank, your own school, your own supermarket. Let's start. If we're serious about being independent, why don't we have our own institution? Let's get that bank first. Let's get that school first. Let's get that hospital first. Let's get that supermarket first. Right now, as we sit here, there's over a dozen cities for sale in this country. Right now, as we sit here, there's over 12 cities you can buy right now to yourself. Why haven't you bought them? You know why? Black folks, number one, we love white folks. Yes. You Negroes, you love white people. Lord have mercy. You love them! Listen, not only that, we do not have enough love for each other to sacrifice financially the way we need to in order to become independent. See, you know what you like to do? You like to march, vote, and pray. That's all you're going to do. You're going to march, you're going to vote, and you're going to pray. And don't get me wrong, prayer is powerful. Voting can be powerful if we ever organize the black vote. Marching can be powerful when you stop integrating your damn marches, right? But why is it that black people only march, pray, vote? Because they don't cost nothing. That's why. If you had to pay to vote, your ass wouldn't vote. If you had to pay to march, your ass wouldn't march. And if you had to pay to pray, you wouldn't be praying. Black people want the easy way out for everything. We're the only people who don't have our own. And then you want to sit around and say, well, we need reparations. You don't need reparations. Are we entitled? Yes. Will we get it? Yes. Do I support it? Yes. Well, does that mean I'm going to sit here and do nothing until the white government decides to pay my ancestors for the unpaid labor? We are a $2 trillion people. We're the richest Africans in the world, and we're the 10th richest economy on earth. There is no excuse why black Texas don't have a single independent community. There's no excuse why there's not a single black community in these United States that doesn't have a community of their own. I can find a Chinatown in every city. I can find a little Italy in every city. I can find a little Israel in most cities. I can even find a little Cambodia. I can find a little East India. I can find a little of everything, but I can't find a little black Africa. No way. Because Negroes are allergic to institutions that they build. Good. Well, you got a couple little Ethiopian communities, you got a couple little Ghanaian communities, but in terms of an American African community where we're all working together on a Pan-African one, that's no way. And we got to get it. And the reason we're not there is because most black folks are too lazy and don't have enough confidence in the group to build for ourselves. Let's just be honest. Most Negroes are playing a gambling match. You know what we're doing? We're gambling that I'm going to be the one that white people don't step on. We're gambling that my kids are going to be the ones who don't go to jail. We're gambling my husband ain't going to be the one who gets shot by the cops. We're gambling my wife won't be the one who gets raped or kidnapped on the side of the road. Because see, we don't care about the race. We don't care about all of our people. We just worry about my wife, my husband, my kids, my nieces and nephews. And so you're hoping and praying that the white man leave you alone. But the minute the white man knocks on your door, kill one of your loved ones, fire you from a job you was at for 40 years, now you want the whole black America to come to your aid, but where was you when everybody else was hurt? Selfishness is killing our race. Selfishness is killing our race. Great question, my brother, great question. You was 2. You was 3, right? You was 2, 3. Who am I 4?
Who's 4?
You the real 4 or you stupid? Go ahead, please. You the real 4. Go right ahead. You good, beautiful. You good. That's your princess right next to me? What grade you in, princess? 5th grade? 5th grade was my favorite teacher. You know what her name was? Miss Robinson. My favorite teacher. Love her to the rest of heaven. Here's what I want to say to you right now. You better be doing your best. Do you understand me? Be excellent. Don't be average. The biggest problem I have with young people is we are so comfortable being average. Don't be mediocre. God didn't put you here to be mediocre, princess. God put you here to be excellent. Your job is to prove that perfection can exist. On your report card, I want to see nothing but A's and B's. Do you understand me? A and B. And why do I want to see A's and B's? A for Africa, B for black. I don't want to see no C's and D's. Caucasians and those. Do you understand me? A's and B's. Praise the Lord.
Hi everybody, my name is Harriet. I am black. I consider myself a feminist, although I have love and appreciation for the black man. I've been hearing recently the term resting in your femininity, and you spoke on that for a moment as well. And the only question I really have is, with the praise that you gave for Harriet Tubman, the types of work that she performed, nothing about Harriet said resting in femininity. And as a woman, a single mother, with so much to do, so much that we all have to do as a people, how does a woman rest in her femininity when there isn't a big rush of black men to take control? And when we're in a state where we all need to be taking a break, the need to take a break. But how do you rest in your femininity when there's so much to be done and no one rushing to do it?
Excellent question. Number one, I think back in all humility because I'm not a queen and don't plan on becoming one. Black women have to decide that amongst yourselves as a sisterhood. As a man, I have to know my place. And it is not to prescribe the solutions for my sisters. However, I think that femininity can be rescued even within the midst of assuming the leadership role that has been thrust upon you as a result of the war on us. With that being said, in support of black, I think black men need to be very cautious in the criticism we have for our sisters. Because brothers, I'm not saying there's not some things we can point out to our women, but there is nothing more unmasculine and weak than to see black men on social network tearing black women down daily. There's no other race you can point to where you can find literally hundreds of men hosting conversations aimed at attacking the character and behavior of black women, especially given the fact that the reason she is in charge is because there's a war against us that doesn't always allow us to lead. And if we are to be honest, and I know this isn't true for all the men, a lot of black men have gotten so comfortable with the sisters out front that they want to leave them out front and stay in the back. Too many of our community fights are being led by women. And I'm not against that. I'm against her being out there by herself. Brothers, we got to do a better job, because here's what bothers me about this new black male versus black female and black female versus black male crisis. Our children are watching it. I don't want that princess right there to be privy to these trifling conversations I'm privy to, because it will bias her against black men. Not because of anything her mother tells her about men, but because what she sees and hears from men herself. We are making it hard for the black family to save itself by constantly tearing down our sisters in public. It is nothing worse than hearing the brothers say they do it to us. So what? I'm a man. That means I must be a manifestation of discipline. I don't care what my sister does that is dysfunctional. I'm not going to do it. So at some point, we got to have a standard that we live by as black men, because the black family is under attack. They want to kill it. That's why every commercial you see is either a mixed race couple, a same-sex couple, or an interracial couple. You don't see black on black love no more. If you look at all the new television shows, mixed race, interracial, or same gender, you don't see heterosexual black love no more. They want to kill it. And we are helping them do it by constantly attacking one another. If we lose the black family, we're done. Even all these new alternative lifestyles that's being pushed. This is also a weapon to convince black boys and girls to no longer try to go after the traditional black family and start a new type of family that cannot reproduce children. We better be careful, because America thinks she's at a point where she can get rid of us. And I'm not too sure she's incorrect either. With the black on black crime, with the abortion rate, with the genocide, the incarceration, the killings that are going on right now, the hate between black men and black women, the black family is on its last leg. And that's why black men, whenever you get around black boys, you got to tell them how much it means to love a black woman, what it means to be committed to a black woman. We just can't be married anymore. We got to be happily married. We got to show black men that having a black woman is where it's at. You got to make black love popular. Good question. 5, be up to 5, right? Queen was 4, right? Queen, who's my 5? Go right ahead. 5 of 8, we're going to stop at 8 so I can sign books and do photos. Number 5.
How you doing, Doctor? Appreciate your work.
Before you go any further, brothers and sisters, please put your hands together for Brother Chris and Sister Sydney for making this happen. If it wasn't for them, I would not be here. I would not be here. Much thanks to the Lord. Go right ahead, brother.
I wanted to know if you believe that there's a resolution or resolutions for Black America to gain its independence or dominance without violence.
I believe you can gain your independence without violence. I don't know if you can keep it without the violence. Nobody's stopping us from being independent. As I said earlier, you got 12 cities for sale. We should have already bought them up if we were serious about doing them for ourselves. But the truth of the matter is we're not ready to get off America's breast milk. Black people love America's breast milk. We might have a PhD making $1 million a year, but we're still being subsidized by the government. We have to be independent. That's why the Frederick Douglass Marcus Garvey Academy, we take no money from 89 African source. We do not want a government grant. Every day I got to argue with Negroes who try to get me to take government funding. The hand that pays is the hand that rules. I will not be dictated to by the white power structure. It must be independent, which is why one of the principles we stand on as Pan-Africanists is independent economic and independent political power. Why is it that most black elected officials in Texas do not serve a black agenda? The reason most black elected officials in Texas don't serve a black agenda is because they belong to the white Democratic Party. They are funded by the white Democratic Party. They are funded by white institutions and organizations. So it doesn't matter how good a black politician might be in Texas. If his money is coming from your enemy, he cannot serve your agenda. Which is why I keep telling black people, until y'all get off the Democratic Party plantation, which you built over 89 years, still voting Democrat. Now, I didn't say go Republican. I'm saying get off both plantations and start an independent black political party. It's the same message I have for black teachers. All the racism black teachers are subject to. We still don't have a national black teachers union. How in the hell don't we have a national black teachers union? Because we are comfortable on the white breasts. Slavery made us comfortable, dependent on white folk. We're the only people in this country who do not think community first. We think self first. This is why the Mexicans are outdoing us. This is why the Chinese are outdoing us. This is why the Arabs are outdoing us. Because when they show up in Texas, the first thing they say is, where are we going to build our community? Black people don't do that. So when you get a good job, you run to a white suburb. How can you build black political power when all of the wealthy blacks are living in a white neighborhood? You can't build political power like that. Everything we do is dysfunctional because of our self-hatred. But to answer your question, we can do the independence, but you will have to fight to preserve it. Why? White racism cannot allow black power to exist. It is a contradiction. This is why they burned down Tulsa. This is why they burned down Rosewood. It is a contradiction of white supremacy to allow black power next door. So you will have to fight to preserve it unless you help build up African nations on other continents who are strong enough to come to your aid in the chance that white America tries to burn you down. Now you have Ghana to speak up, Nigeria to speak up, Jamaica to speak up, Brazil to speak up, to say, if you burn down Black Desoto's Wall Street, you'll never get another gallon of oil from this country. You'll never get another barrel of gas from this country. You'll never get another diamond or another shipment of coltan or uranium. And by the way, without that uranium from Africa, ain't no nuclear weapons. By the way, without that coltan from the Congo, ain't no cell phones, ain't no laptops, ain't no airplanes. There are resources that are necessary for the technological and the nuclear age that can only come from the ground of Africa. So for me, my salvation is in the mother continent. Not that I'm going to move there, not that I'm going to die there, but I know There's a future for me outside of Africa, but there's no future for me without Africa. Africa must be a part of the black man and woman's mission because she is too important to the white power structure. Do you realize that in France, America, Germany, and Britain, if they can no longer steal the resources from Africa, they would probably dissipate on that. Their whole power, the power of America, is contingent on her ability to rape Africa of her resources. That was my number 5, right? Who my 6?
Right here.
Yes, sir.
My question is, you talk about schools and they gave you learning disability.
Yes, sir.
Once a school says your child has a learning disability and it sits there for a couple of years, they give them Ritalin and all stuff, how do you reverse that and say, I don't want my kid to have Ritalin, I don't want them to be in special ed, and how do you get away with that without having CPS say their children?
Great question. Remember what I said earlier. The best intervention is prevention. Don't put them in special ed. Don't get them tested for ADHD. Remember what I said earlier. If you don't plan on doping up your child, there's no need for ADHD evaluation because the only solution for ADHD is medication. The only solution America has for ADHD is medication. And by the way, ADHD to me doesn't even stand for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. ADHD to me stands for ain't no daddy at home disorder, ADHD. You know why? Because 85% of black boys diagnosed with ADHD don't have a father in their life. This has nothing to do with brain chemistry. This has nothing to do with cerebral dysfunction. This is about a war on black males that sends the father to jail, leave the mother at home to raise a boy, and when the mother can't do it, they say the boy got ADHD. ADHD is a scam. It is a con game. The drug companies in New York City, Wall Street District created it. They gave it to the American Psychiatric Association. They funded it so they can do what? Make billions of dollars off of black boys who are sent to school by their parents with no self-discipline.
What about women diagnosed?
Say that again.
What about women diagnosed?
You said women?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Female girls who are...
Same thing for the girls. And the girls are catching up. Now, special ed is still predominantly male. ADHD is still predominantly male. Psychiatric meds are still overwhelmingly male, but you're correct. The girls are catching up. And what nobody's telling black parents is when your son or daughter take the medication, it can affect their ability to reproduce children when they become adults. Oh, yes. Did y'all hear me mention the word eugenics before? Racial extermination? Or the ADHD do. Do you also know that ADHD meds got hormones that cause the boys to grow breasts? There's a group of white men suing one of the companies right now because they grew breasts as a result of the psychiatrics because some of them have high levels of estrogen in the pills. Stop giving your children drugs to deal with behavior. Teach them how to act. In my book, and I see the Queen got a copy, there's a whole chapter that tells you how to deal with misbehavior without drugs. My father was a drill instructor in the Marine Corps. You know what the ADHD for me was? The belt around his waist. That was ADHD in my house. You understand me? I couldn't come home with no excuse. I'm saying, Dad, I cursed the teacher out. Can I have some drugs? I couldn't have done that in my house. The problem is we're letting white folks raise our kids for us, and we're not raising our kids for ourselves. But to answer your question, if you want your child out of special ed, all you got to do is call an IEP meeting and say, I want to exit my child. Then IEP, Individual Education Plan Team. Every child in special ed has an IEP team because the IEP team's job is to do what? Create the curriculum for the disabled child in the disabled area. So if you got a reading disability, you have an IEP team whose job is to do what? Create your reading curriculum. Special ed children get their own curriculum. That's why it's called Individual Education Plan or Program, IEP. So if your daughter has a reading disability, math is in a regular class, science is in a regular class, social studies is in a regular class, but reading will be given by the special ed teacher according to the goals and objectives set forth in her IEP. So all you got to do is call an IEP meeting to get her out. But the school can take you through the process, but the state force you to keep them in. That's why it's best not to put it at all. As far as ADHD goes, it's going to be tough. Which is why I would never tell the school my child had an ADHD diagnosis. I would never tell the school my child had an ADHD diagnosis. See, here's the thing with ADHD. As y'all heard me say earlier, we don't diagnose it in the school, right? You can only get it from the clinic or the hospital, right? So how did the school know that y'all had ADHD and put them in special ed? Because some big mouth black parent, you talk too much, brought the evaluation from the school or the clinic, you took it to the school and said, here, Raheem or Rashida has ADHD. Once you give the public or charter school the outside ADHD evaluation, they now have authority to put the kid in special ed. If you never told the school, they could have never done it. Which takes me to another rule. Stop telling your business to the school. And black woman, your child's teacher is not your life coach. Your child's teacher is not your confidant. Your child's teacher is not your girlfriend. Some of you mothers be acting like them teachers is your girlfriends, and you tell them all your business, and guess what? When they want your child in special ed on medication, you don't do it. They go tell everything you told them to the principal. Dr. Schwarzenegger, right? And guess what Dr. Schwarzenegger gonna do? He gonna call Child Protective Services and get your kids taken away because you talk too much. Stop telling your business to school personnel. The best intervention is prevention. Number 7. You were 6, right? Somebody stole the number. See? I broke the rules. Who my number 7?
I'm number 7.
You got 2 7s?
No, I don't have them, but I got it.
Thank you for breaking the rule up. I got you. I'm gonna make you 7D. You 7A. Go ahead, go.
Hi, Dr. Umar. My name is Crystal.
Peace
Kane.
and
And you spoke about 2 of my heroes, Harriet Tubman and Marcus Garvey. Marcus Garvey, I read his book, The Message to Black People, or to the People. And in his book, he speaks about our leaders and how we have to make sure that we're not criticizing each other. So I just threw that in there because of your comments about Obama. I know me, I benefited from some of his initiatives, such as the Earned Income Credit. Also, I was in college while he was in office, and he extended the college age for us to stay on our parents' health insurance. I benefited from that. And also, he also had the lowest black unemployment rate under his leadership. One of the things that I think we could probably do better, as far as the leaders being more inclusive with one another, if we came together, then we could actually push a black agenda because we would have one message for that leader. So that's my comment about that. But my question is, I'm curious to what your motto is. You spoke about your school's motto. What is your school's motto?
Great question. Number 1, my beautiful African queen. Every benefit that accrued to you as a result of Obama's presidency had nothing to do to address any systemic problem in black America.
That's true. And that's our fault.
Stay with me. The 5 major problems we have are miseducation, mass incarceration, gentrification, police genocide, access to wealth. He touched none of them. As far as the unemployment rate being lowest, that's due to a manipulation of numbers. One of the things we learned in statistics class, working on my doctorate, is how you can use numbers to make it look like you're doing good when you're doing horrible, or doing horrible when you're doing good. And I don't know anybody who got a job because Obama was president. Now, as far as the earned income credit and all of that, that was not for black people, that was for Americans.
I said I benefited from it.
I got you, you benefit from it. But my point is, that was not for black people, that was for Americans. I'm speaking of specifics for my race, just like you did specifics for the LGBTQ, specifics for immigrants, specifics for white women. Where are the specifics for black people? And my good brother Charlemagne actually asked Obama that face-to-face on an interview with the Breakfast Club, and he had no answer.
You know what his answer was? I watched that interview. His answer was, y'all didn't tell me what y'all wanted.
Obama is from Chicago. He's from Chicago. If you live in Chicago, you feel me, Queen? Nobody got to tell you what you need to do.
But I will say this lastly. Martin Luther King, he worked closely, the NCAA worked closely with Johnson, which got the civil rights passed. So we have to, our leaders, including you, Clyde Anderson, NCAACP, I think
NAACP is a white organization. It's founded by white folks and controlled by
okay. Fair enough.
right? The Comprehensive Law Enforcement Assistance Act, which militarized the black community, gave the cops in the ghetto military-grade weapons and surveillance equipment so as to prevent another Black Power or Black Panther type of organized movement. So while we were celebrating the civil rights, he was over here militarizing the police, which gave rise to the police state we live under now in the black community. Lyndon B. Johnson was a racist devil. He was nothing.
That's true. Very true.
I don't disagree with you in spirit, though. I don't disagree with you in spirit. But Obama is not a black leader. He was put up by the white power structure. He does not belong to us at all. So we have to stop claiming people. White people made him president so he can make.
We did too. We voted.
We did, but presidents are chosen 4 years in advance. Your vote does not choose the president. Never did, never will. They put Obama there on purpose because they knew that we would not hold him accountable, and they knew that they would be able to set us all the way back by the time Obama got out of office. Everything we suffer from right now is because of our illusion of inclusion. And we have to stop falling. But I agree with you in spirit, so we don't disagree. The leaders do have to work together, and we do have to come together. But I do wish, and this is not for you because you didn't name specific people other than Claude Anderson, who I would name too. Because I think Claude Anderson and myself are the two most relevant scholars in this country. Nobody else is trying to change or build nothing. They just want to keep talking about history, talking about this, talking about that. We need institutions. Institutions are the solutions. Until we have our own institutions to service our own people, we're going to stay dependent on white folks. If you need his hospital, he can kill you. If you need his supermarket, he can poison you. If you need his schools, he can miseducate you. As long as you need his institutions and you don't have your own, you're playing on his time. That's why I'm building FDMG. I can do the school only. Once I got to school, I do plan the bank, the supermarket. We're going to have a farm at FDMG. Wilmington, Delaware is going to be the first Black Wall Street if I can help it again. Okay? And y'all going to see what I'm talking about when y'all come on September 10th. It's going to be powerful.
And I commend what you're doing.
I appreciate
Thank
you. I appreciate
And your school's motto?
Two of them. One is a quote from Frederick Douglass and one is a quote from Marcus Garvey. From Frederick Douglass, it is better to raise strong men. Excuse me. It is better to raise strong children than to repair broken men. That is a quote from Frederick Douglass, and it is the motto of the school. The other motto is from Garvey, and I had already mentioned it once, and that is, without confidence in yourself, you are twice defeated in the race of life. With confidence, you have won even before you have started. Rebuilding the African race, one strong black boy at a time. That's what we're doing. Send me your resume. That needs to go natural. Who's my number 8? I ain't doing that.
You said 7B.
7B. Let me do 7B. This right. Okay. Go ahead, Queen.
Okay. I don't want any pity from anybody. I got my master's degree in urban school leadership and in the process of getting my doctorate in special education. I have a 9-year-old black boy who at the age of 5 is diagnosed with autism.
Why didn't we let him get tested at 5 for autism? Did you not hear my rule earlier? Under 7, they do not get. I'm thinking that you go.
I guess I very much value. No, I'm not going to say I didn't know better. I very much value the things that you have said, and I see both perspectives. I have read The Conspiracy Run Back Black Boys.
Dr. Umarjohnson.
Exactly. And I very, very much like Malcolm X is my dad. So, Pan-Afrikanism, I'm for it. My son was running from school. He was exiting the building or eloping. My son does not have friends. My son, he makes violent threats. He's not violent towards others, but it's clear that there is a need there. So you asked me why did I get my son diagnosed?
Okay, but nothing.
Let me finish.
No, stay with me. Wait. I need you to go piece by piece. Stay with me. Wait. I need you to go piece by piece because I'm educating as you go. Stay with me. So the first thing I must say, and then you're going to continue. So I'm not refuting, I'm just educating.
Okay.
None of the things you just mentioned your son does is a criteria for autism. That's all I wanted to say. Continue.
Eloping is a criteria.
Eloping is not you're talking to an expert autistic diagnostician.
Okay, that's
not a criteria. Eloping has nothing to do with autism. You can be autistic and elope. You can be a regular kid and elope. That is not a diagnostic criteria for autism. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he's not autistic. I'm just simply saying the three things you named have nothing to do with being autistic. Continue.
Okay. My son it was decided by, he was in an all-black school, and he was decided by a black principal to run a background test. I'm just going to respond to the things that you have said.
Wait,
So,
we're on the same page.
okay, because
How old is he now? How old is he now? Just
he's
one-
9, and he's once again not in school.
Why?
I can't find him in school.
Wait a minute. What do you mean? Your son does not report to school daily.
No.
You made the decision to pull him out.
No.
Who made the decision to take him out of school?
You know, I've been going through this for 9 years. It gets very frustrating to have to fight. And I feel like
Did you pull him out?
I did pull him out.
Okay, listen to me. You're going to finish what you're saying. But then you're going to call me because you got my number. Did you take it?
I wrote it down.
This is what I need you not to do, and this is what I need all you black parents to never do. Don't ever take a special needs child out of school. When you do that, you make it easy on the system to explain away why they're not getting what they need. When they have a disability, they have rights that regular kids don't have.
So are you going to agree with that there are disabilities?
Stay with me. If you have an IEP, if you have one of those 13 disabilities, autism is one of them, you have rights that regular kids don't have. Stay with me. Well, if you was away, you should have left them in because what we could have done, stay with me, is call an IEP meeting. The IEP team has 3 responsibilities, Queen. 1, they design the curriculum. So your son's autistic support is designed by his IEP team. 2, they decide on the placement where your son will receive his autistic support. 3, they must monitor the special ed progress to make sure autistic support is benefiting your son. You just said you pulled him out. Stay with me. I'm not done yet. Because his needs were not getting met. That means we should have called an IEP meeting and we should have said, my son's placement is not appropriate. His program is not appropriate, and he's not making progress. So all 3 responsibilities of this IEP team are not being met for my son, and therefore, I am now invoking my Texas state right and my federal right as the parent of a disabled child. I am demanding that the school district pay for my son to go to an improved private school.
The last school was an improved private school that I removed him from. He went to a private therapy school.
It doesn't stop though, Queen. If the school they put him in was not appropriate, then we find one that is.
My son has been to 10 different schools, Dr. Umar.
And guess
So
what?
my question to
It's
you
still over,
is,
though.
when you are saying things like, because I'm a parent advocate, so I know the laws, I know the rules, I understand what you're
Then he
saying.
should have never been
But when
taken out.
you're saying
Did it
things,
help him when you
but
did
my
it?
question, this is my question. When you're saying the things that you were saying about how parents should and shouldn't, accept diagnosis from people who, it's supposed to be a partnership, because I'm an assistant principal. So I'm advocating for children, my child, I'm advocating for other people's children. It's supposed to be a partnership. So we're listening to these people tell us these things that they're saying about our children. We bring in the diagnosticians and they observe the kids, and we're putting these plans together. My question to you is, outside of just telling parents, don't accept the word of white people, white institutions, everything
And
else.
I mean every word of that.
Okay, I'm with you. Are you in these communities? Because there are so many.
You know who I am?
Listen to what
You
I'm
know who I
saying.
am.
Are
What do
you
you mean am I?
still going to schools? Are you still diagnosing children?
Yes, that's what I
Okay,
do.
then I want to re-diagnosis for my own kid. And if you see something, because at this point I quit my job. My son has been to 10 different schools, as I've said, 10 different
How long
types
have
of
you
schools.
known of me? Question.
Since I've donated to the school.
How long have you known of me?
I can't give you a year.
Roughly, how many years you know about Dr. Umar? Roughly.
2013.
2013. So that's 9 years. I want you to tell me, and I'm picking with you, but I'm serious, and I'm doing it respectfully. Why didn't I hear from you in 2013?
Because I was new. My son was 1.
Okay, well, since he was evaluated, y'all need to stop waiting. Hit me up when it first happens. We could have gotten him what he needed back then, and we still can't. It ain't over. It's going to be hard, though, because you took him out. Do y'all see what I'm talking about? When you pull your child out of school, you make it easy for them. Because now, if your son gets an independent evaluation, which he will need, because we gotta know what his levels are. We gotta know what his levels are. You know what the school gonna say? They're gonna take no responsibility. They're gonna say, the reason why this young man's levels are so low ain't because of us, it's because the mom pulled him out of school and he ain't been here 2 or 3 years. It could totally be because of them. But when you pull them out, you let the school district off the hook. And if you've been in 10 different schools, I believe you are entitled to compensatory education. You received it, you should still be getting it if you've been in 10 different schools. This is what we're going to do. I got to see all your paperwork. All right?
Because I think that as black people, we can be acknowledged their mental health issues, but then we tell parents that we don't need to get them tested.
Special ed is not the same as a mental health issue. Special ed is only learning. Special ed is only learning. It doesn't deal with mental health. No, it does not. Listen to me. In order to go to special ed, you must have 2 things. And mental health ain't one of them. No, I'm giving you the law now. I'm giving you the law now. Number 1, you must have a disability. And number 2, the disability must affect your learning. It has nothing to do with mental health. Only with learning. Now, if you get a clinical evaluation, it's all about mental health. In the schools, we are looking for the impact on learning only. Only. Yeah, you can have related services that might deal with mental health, but to qualify for special ed, you only have 2 things. A disability that affects your learning. That's it. No, listen to what I'm saying. If you got a mental health diagnosis that affects your learning, then yes, you qualify as other health care for the mental health diagnosis. But it must involve learning. It's not about your emotional functioning. It's about your ability to learn in school only. See? But
okay, I'm gonna text you.
And I would love to look at your paperwork and help you out. But parents, stop taking the kids out of school out of frustration. That's what they want y'all to do. It's the easiest way to get out of accountability. Are y'all following me? Because the minute you pull them out of school, the school can now blame you for everything that went wrong. Stop taking them out. Special ed kids have so much power that we can get more done by leaving them in. I wish you would. Plus, he's autistic. That's a major diagnosis, if it's correct. That's a major diagnosis, and there's so much we could have got him by leaving him in, but we still got time. How long would you say he's been out of school? Years? Yeah, virtual school.
He was in school September 27th and he tried to kill himself. He had very many episodes, and the reason why I took him out is because the way in which the people came to me, I did not feel like my child was a safe environment. So when I tell you that I've taken my child out of 9 different schools, it is not because, like I said, my art meetings, they knew not to play with me because I'm an educated woman. I came with my father, who was also a lawyer. Everything that you say, I know the law. But at the end of the day, I'm to protect my black child. And what you're saying is right. These white people will call police on you. These white people will try to do all these things to you. As long as advocating on both ends. But there's still a problem. I mean, groups and groups of black mothers who are constantly saying, I can't find help. I'm not going to be able to drive every morning to Delaware to bring my child to your school. There needs to be one right here.
I agree. Fire your bill, but there'll be one here.
My child was just removed from a private therapeutic school. And the reason why I took him out of there is because I'm not going to pay private school prices to do public school issues. So you're right, I do need to get him back in public school, but I'm not going to lose my son behind the school that knows.
Why did you take him out of the private school?
These white folks want me to change his medicine right now.
Change his what?
He's on my medicine.
What medicine is he on?
We talk about later.
Give me one, give me one.
The last one that he's on is Guanfacine and Zoloft.
Zoloft for depression, which they give to black folks to deal with mood problems. Does he take it for depression or mood?
All of it. He's diagnosed with autism, ADHD, dysregulatory mood dysfunction
Too many
disorder.
names.
It is. And I had to realize y'all diagnosed him with all the stuff that you could medicate. So I found a black
She
psychiatrist.
signed him up for it.
No, I cut it out, and I found a black psychiatrist who said that she does not do, she's more conservative with her medical practice. And so I very much value it.
Okay.
So,
Question.
yeah.
I got you, Queen, and I'm going to help you. Don't worry about this. And I'm doing this not to get on you, but to influence the others here to not make some of the same decisions. Now, you said your son is 7 or 9?
He is 9.
And he got how many diagnoses?
4.
Autism?
Autism.
Then he got it 5. What else?
ADHD.
Then he got it what age?
Got 7.
7. What else?
He's registered for mood disorder that he got last year. Because he has to be hospitalized.
He's regulatory needs, so more nonsense. And the next and the other one?
Don't say it's nonsense.
It's nonsense, baby. You know why it's nonsense? Because labels don't solve problems.
Oh, you're right. Okay.
All they do is allow them to criminalize the kids. They don't solve and don't need 4 labels. Because with 4 labels in each school he goes to, they're going to identify him as a crisis child. And we don't want that. He'll be labeled before he even get a chance to start. That's why we got to stop putting the labels on. The autism might be understandable if it's violent, but 5 years old was too early for that. ADHD, he should have never got evaluated for that, because as you heard me say earlier, they're going to give him nothing but drugs for that. How many meds does he take?
Right now?
Yes. And one of them is Zoloft, which is an antidepressant made for adults, but you can legally give it to kids. And then give it to them for depression and probably mood problems and all the side effects that I mentioned earlier. Kill brain cells, mess with your heart, liver, kidney function, homicidal thoughts, oversleeping, overeating, undersleeping, sexual dysfunction, inability. Okay. He's telling classmates he's going to bring an AK-47. I'm going to put that on you though.
What?
You know why? Because no black boy in America should feel comfortable enough. I don't care what label white people gave him. Should feel comfortable enough to walk into a school and say, I'm going to bring an AK-47. Which brings me to another point. Not for you, but for everybody. Listen to me. You know why? Because that'll get him expelled. And when you make threats, your special ed protection does not protect you. And in America, there's record numbers of black boys being expelled from school for making threats like that. You understand? That'll get him put out of school, period. IEP won't count. So the point that I'm making to everybody here, stay with me, the point that I'm making to everybody here, make sure you tell your sons and daughters, don't you ever threaten anybody or anything inside the school. Because when you do that, it automatically becomes a zero tolerance offense, and you can be expelled from school and arrested. I'm only saying this because that's the quickest way to get a black boy out your school, is to make him so angry that he threatens to shoot you. I know 3, 4, and 5-year-olds who cannot go back to school because they told the teacher they was going to shoot the teacher. Now, you and I know a 3-year-old in preschool don't have the means or the methods to shoot a teacher, but guess what? The racists damn sure use them to get them expelled. And you know where all this come from? Columbine. Y'all remember Columbine? When the white kids walked into a white school in a white suburb and murdered white classmates, which was wrong. And I'm sorry it happened. But the Columbine gave birth to zero tolerance that is now being used to lynch record numbers of black boys. Tell your sons, I don't care how angry you are, don't threaten nobody and don't threaten the school. Because if they say, I'm going to blow up the school, I'm going to shoot you, I'm going to stab you, they're getting expelled. White boys can say it, and they'll just get slapped on the back. Black boys say it, they're going to get expelled. But what I think, though, Queen, is we got some school issues, right? But we also got some home dynamics going on. I'm hearing a lot of home stuff, emotional stuff from the home that ain't got nothing to do with that school. That AK-47 could have been triggered by school, but it began at home. We got some of each. But I'm going to work with you. I'm going to work with you. I'm glad you came. I love you. I was not trying to be adversarial. I just get angry when I hear parents make some decisions that I wish they would have consulted me with before they made it. But your son is 9. He's not 19. He's still young. We can still save him. All right? So don't be upset. I'm with you. I'm not blaming you. I commend all the black mothers for y'all doing the best job that y'all can. And that's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons I will be coming back to Texas. I don't know if it's going to be Houston or Dallas or DeSoto, but I have to come back and offer my 12-hour Black Parent Know Your School Rights boot camp. I hope all you parents in here come when I come back. It's a 12-hour training. It is not a lecture. I'm at the front, but I have a whiteboard. You're at a table with a stack of paperwork. I'm going to give you like this. We're going to go through the whole special ed process. We're going to go through the disabilities. We're going to go through the IEP. We're going to go through your federal rights, your state rights. We're going to go through letter writing. We're going to go through behavior modification. By the time I'm done with you, from 8 in the morning till 8 at night, you will be an expert advocate. Not only will you be able to fight for your own children, you'll be able to fight for other people's children. But never take a special ed child out of school. Never, never, never do that. Leave them in and let's fight for what they need while they're there. Never take them out. I know you get frustrated, but the minute you take them out, you just took the accountability off of the school and put it on yourself. Special ed kids have so many rights, you don't ever want to pull them out. And stop getting them diagnosed so young. It's not your fault. You didn't know. 5 was too young for ADHD. Too young for autism. 7 was too young for ADHD. And them other labels, what they do with black boys, they start piling on top of you. Piling more labels and piling more labels. I know black boys with like 12 diagnoses. Totally ridiculous. Labels do not solve problems. Parents, do not be in a rush to get your child labeled. Labels don't solve problems. We can solve problems without the labels. Remember, special ed is about money. ADHD is about more money. Thank you for that, Queen. We got last 2. This brother, and then I'll start signing books.
Good evening, Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Good to see you once again.
Likewise.
All right, and brothers and sisters who are in attendance here. I don't want to be redundant. A lot of what you have already answered from other speakers, but I just want to kind of elaborate real quick. I'm going to long evening, everyone is tired. Back on the building, I'm one of the big advocates of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, of course, Black Wall Street.
Yes.
And kind of leading on some of the comments you mentioned earlier in the lecture about presentation about Black Americans, we, to a major degree, are comfortable being breastfed by white America, with white American resources and et cetera. And then, of course, the indecisiveness amongst ourselves. We need to be more unified, independent of society,
absolutely,
et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We all know that. Okay. Let me add something to the equation that I know you didn't mention, but it is a concern. And I don't like to say it, but it is a reality.
Say it.
Fear.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And with that being said, now, and kind of understand what I'm saying, it's not that we're not strong people. Okay, I know what fear means. I'm saying it in an aspect because when we look at the history of America, we're not dealing not only with racism and discrimination, we're dealing with a beast that has no feelings and no regards.
Ruthless.
Okay, extreme. And when we look at Tulsa, Oklahoma, it's easy to mention it, but you gotta understand, of course, the numbers were there back during that time. It was a bloodbath, like Rosewood and many other events throughout America that our people have dealt with. And I think that what some concerns with some Black Americans is what makes our generation any different than past generations today. That same bloodbath could appear today.
Yes.
What protections do you like?
None but what you can provide for yourself.
And these are just things that, a lot of us just come up in conversation, but I get among friends and acquaintances. So I think that maybe that's something we may want to consider at the same time we try to grow and progress. Because every idea we know will have to be financed to some degree. Banks, credit unions, etc. And of course a lot of support, but understand there's going to be a lot of sacrifices. Okay, I know we don't like to mention that and we don't talk about that, but that's just the reality of our situation as a people. We are no different than our ancestors. I'm not advocating that I want anything to happen to us, but we have to be prepared for the worst of all worst. Because they're not going to stop. When Dr. Umar Johnson said this is a war against the black boys, it is a war. It's not just a battle. It's not that, we're going to just aggravate black people this day, this time of year. This is going to be an ongoing thing. So once the wheel gets started, there's no turning back. And the question that we need to ask ourselves, are we willing to really make that ultimate sacrifice for change? So that's something I just want to mention of that as well. And also, adding to the school, I know you didn't mention you foresee yourself when it comes to finance. You didn't mention that, maybe we'll elaborate that not now, maybe later, banking institution, maybe adding a credit union to your school. So maybe we help further the cost of at the credit long-term school.
Yes, sir, that's our plan.
Thank you so much for your time.
Last word right here, God is sitting. I know y'all done took us way past. Cindy being patient. I thought Cindy was gonna come up here and say, Doctor, you don't wrap this up. Good to see you, black man.
Good to see you too. So I'm a mechanical engineer by trade.
Mechanical engineer.
Yes, sir. That being said, I'm a farm believer in science and knowledge, things like that. I find that at times when I try to, I guess what I consider pushing black people in the correct direction at times, it's met with understandable critiques, criticism. I think, I guess my question becomes, how do we encourage black people to understand properly, I guess, the information that they're receiving, how to validate that information, and verify that it's correct from the correct sources, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And how do we get black people to be more trustful and to stop, I guess, associating knowledge with white people or the white man. I'm Nigerian in background, and I've had people tell me, it sort of make it seem like Africa has no connection to knowledge or anything scientific, anytime you
Cradle with knowledge.
Yeah, you know, so I make statements at times and it's just, oh, you got that from the white man. And no, I didn't, right? It's facts, methods, things like that. Two, I'm starting up a podcast and I was hoping you'd like to be the first speaker on the podcast.
I have no
I don't
problem.
know if you do that.
With the podcast, I do require a $250 donation to the FDMG Academy. If it's video, if it's audio, it's a $100 donation. And that's for anybody, if you have radio, podcast, $250 donation to FDMG. If it's video, or $100 donation if it's an audio interview.
Also,
we can do that. I appreciate what you said about knowledge. Knowledge is not the white man's, although he's trying to colonize it. Okay, we are the first people with a script, we're the first people with a civilization, we're the first people with a library, we're the first people with a university. You know, so I think teaching our people who we are and our history and culture will help dissolve a lot of these assumptions that knowledge is the prerogative of the white man. Okay, the white man don't really even have any original scripts. All his scripts were borrowed from scripts that were borrowed from African people. So, you know, we have to go back to that. In terms of, we gotta become better researchers. But one of the biggest problems with black people is we don't have no real independent research institutions. Most black researchers are tied to white folk. And the problem with that is white people are not going to release any research that contradicts their agenda. Are y'all following me? Capitalism rules the white man's science. Science is based on truth. The white man will never publish any truth that contradicts his agenda. So we'll never know what's really happening until we do our own research, because if it contradicts his agenda, he's not going to publish it. I'll give you an example. From birth to age 5, black children outperform children of every other race on intelligence. From birth to age 5. Why don't you know this? Because the white man found this out, but he did not publish it. If it contradicts what he wants people to believe, he won't release it. So we need our own independent research tanks and research clubs. And I can't wait to get back to Nigeria. I ain't been back to Nigeria since 2008. My ancestry is from Nigeria too. Ifatunde. I'm gonna leave it up to Sydney if she want to take the extra questions.
So I do apologize. I know he has books to sign, but I have 2 individuals, and I need to keep my job, so I have 2 people that gotta ask questions. And then after that, there are books outside that you all can purchase that he will sign. We have a vendor running outside. He's selling jackets. He's selling shirts. I encourage you all to go check him out while you all wait to get your book signed.
Black businesses.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna allow her to ask her question first. Come on. So I'm not walking my butt back there, but go ahead.
So I just want to say thank you for allowing me